Hey, bruh, you ready for some green eggs in Hampton Inn, dog? Dr. Seuss is here today. You ready for that hop on Papa locked up? Horton, here's a hooker. Oi, oi, oi. You ever smoke a joint and forget your cousin's name, dude? You ever wear one sock out the house, huh? You ever done any of that, you beautiful little piece of space shit? You ever pee on your own feet in the shower? Oh, they're so warm. Well, if you've done any of that, you are welcome here. This is This Past Weekend. This Past Weekend. I don't know what this world's gonna do, but I know one thing. This is the life for me. Every day, baby, 'cause I'm a thug. Wouldn't change for the world, baby, 'cause I'm a thug. Man, don't we want to be thugs sometimes, man? I want to, dude. Sometimes I want to be a thug. That's Trick Daddy right there. Thugs are us. That's Trick Daddy, man. And sometimes I do. I want to be a thug, you know? Sometimes I just want to wake up in the morning and just fucking be violent. And I'll say it, man. I do. I want to wake up and be violent, you know? And I want to just shoot. I want to shoot. I want to shoot the wall, or I want to just break a lamp, or just fist fight somebody in the trap house. You know, sometimes I want to live like that. Sometimes I want to live like that, man. How are you guys? It's March 13th, 2017, and I thank you so much for joining me this morning on This Past Weekend, coming to you from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I couldn't be at home today. I came to visit my family and to go visit my friends in New Orleans. Went to the St. Patrick's Day parade yesterday. That shit was disorganized, to say the least. I love New Orleans, but I do not like that parade yesterday. I mean, it was so Irish, dude. It was almost Scottish. That's how bad it was, dude. It was pretty close to Scottish. The Scottish people are about the realest people in the game, dude. I mean, they're thugs, man. They're beautiful thugs, man. They are beautiful. They are just the forgotten children of the universe. They still fight with swords. You could be at a hospital in Scotland, easily a couple dudes show up with wounds from ordinary sword wounds. You'd be like, what kind of sword did you get hit with? And he's like, oh, just a ordinary sword. Dude, those people are still just fighting each other with fire, biting. A lot of people biting each other there. That's the kind of place where you still get bit, dude. You got to be on your bite game. And I guess in U.S. too. I mean, my cousin got bit by a gay guy about a month ago, or maybe, yeah. So we'll see how that works out. But thoughts and prayers with him, man. Good to see you guys this morning, or not even see you. I want to thank you guys for the support of the new podcast. Of the comedy album. We were number one on the iTunes charts for a week. So, I mean, I never thought something in my life like that would occur. So I thank you very much for just being a part of it. There's a lot of great new stuff coming out of the pipeline. I promise you. And I really appreciate just the support. You know, I'm excited to do some new things. We're doing a cool fundraiser show coming up in rural Illinois this summer. And then next weekend, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm just getting these out of the way real quick. That's a brand new March 23rd through 25th. I'll be at the Comedy on State. And then Tampa, Florida, April 6th through 9th. And then the 21st through 23rd, I'll be in Sacramento at the Punchline. So I don't know what your St. Patty's Day weekend was like. I came into New Orleans. It got pretty wild, dude. At the end of the parade, I never saw the end of the parade, first of all, because it was so broken up. We saw two floats. We were there for about 5 hours. And it was just there were people at the end. There was just a bunch of drunk Irish guys kind of we were kind of by this gay neighborhood. And if you don't know what that is, that's just a neighborhood where there's a lot of gay people. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just what it is. And you couldn't tell who was gay or who was just really Irish, because everybody it was just like all adult men just kissing each other and just jumping on each other's backs and just, doing piggybacking. And, one guy was kind of pulling another man's arm hair. They were playing like a little, I guess, just a wild game that they tended to get into. And I guess part of the game was just to get up under a man's arm and just tug on that arm hair a little bit. And I didn't stay to find out what the name was. And I couldn't tell if those men were Irish or just homosexual. So, it's just crazy how close we all are. I mean, if you get so Irish, you could easily wake up in bed with another man. And is that even gay, or is that just being just way Irish? But I'm here in Baton Rouge now. I came to see my family. They had a birthday party for me. My birthday is in a week, so it's not now, but I'm happy to be getting close onto another year of life. They had a lot of people come. My nephews were here. They just got a beautiful new Jeep pig, and so that's beautiful because, I'm in that hamster game. So I want to thank everybody for supporting 30-pound bag of hamster bones. If you haven't checked it out, check it out, and let's keep it on the charts there. So we also went to Buku Festival there in New Orleans, and that's a electric disco music event. And that's a lot of children on drugs and, under the influence of just all types of just psychedelics and delectables that's going to adjust your atmosphere, and they were having a good time, a lot of these kids. And they had, just a lot of them just looked like they'd just been attacked by just beaten with big glitter dicks. The boys and the girls they had glitter and bruises on their bodies, and just looked like people had just been beaten with big cold, just ice cold dicks made out of glitter. And we saw Run the Jewels band, and that is a mixed couple of men that get up there and really put it together. And we saw a couple of other bands that I didn't really get into, but they had kids dressed up like rabbits and all type of animals, outdoor animals, and they were chewing on pieces of plastic, and like children, dude. They were hopped up on that dust, They were hopped up on that dust, man. And I've been out there, I'm not judging these kids. I've been out there, I remember one time in Las Vegas being under the influence of some type of drugs and meeting this lady, and she said she was a mystic, right? And she knew where there was a warp zone, right? And I was high, dude. You got to be high to think somebody knows where there's a warp zone, thinking back on it. And next thing you know, it's 11 a.m., dude, and I'm milling around Las Vegas with this lady. We're probably about 30 miles outside of the city. Got near some rocks and stuff, and I got scared. That's when I started sobering up and got scared, and I was I was bent out on that dust. So I've been going through some tough times at that point. But yeah, if you know a woman, she wore like a parachute or a cape, and this lady's probably in her late 40s, and you just got to be careful. And that's what I don't like about some of those drug-induced events, is that things can go astray quickly. And you could end up, first you're with your friends and you chewing on plastic and having fun, and next thing you know, you're out looking for a warp zone with a woman in her, light 50s or heavy 40s in the desert. And so that's really alarming stuff. But that was called Buku Music Festival down there in New Orleans. A lot of children on that dust and uppers, and just fragmented. Their brains some of them their brains just dripping out of their eyes, And some of it looked beautiful, but I don't practice, drugs. So that's where I'm at right now. What else? I'll give you a sensual update, man. I'm staying off the masturbation now. I think I have 3 days. So obviously that's not much of an update. So, but I'm feeling full. I'm feeling fuller below my, below my tool, below my pecker. Really, I'm feeling fuller. And that's a nice feeling, to be walking around with your nuts just feeling qualified, feeling like when I look a woman in the eyes that, I could spray out if I need to. I could feed the family if I need to. If we hit that Great Depression and everybody got to sip up, that daddy's going to bring a meal to the table, and that's a nice feeling to walk around with your nuts full, not spent out like I'd been doing because I've been doing masturbation. Sorry. I know I'm caught up. Guys, for some reason I cannot seem to do this podcast at a regular time. It's 2:30 a.m. here Central Standard Time. But I made it here to Baton Rouge, which is where I am now. It was a beautiful birthday party, man. The kids, they did everything. They were, laughing and fighting, crying, beating. People was doing urine outside, inside. I mean, everything. It was nice, man. I mean, it was beautiful. It was just nice. Nice to see children having a good time. I remember on my birthday when I was young, I had a couple of bad birthdays, actually. I mean, I had some nice ones. My mother, made an extra effort always to make sure we had something and got a nice cake. Because my mother really enjoyed some cake, and she would get a little bit of canned beer. And when it was your birthday, you got to sit at the head of the table. So it was, it was a time where you got to feel like different. Even in where your place was at the table, it was a special moment for you. And my mother would drink that canned beer, and we'd have some nice cake. I got attacked by dogs on my birthday. Some of you guys know that when I was maybe 7 or 8. I got attacked by a group of dogs. One of them came at me off the roof. Honestly, I'm not even joking, or off of a balcony, next door balcony, right when I came out the door. A year or two later, 2 of those same dogs came back and jumped me again on my birthday. And so I've had issues with dogs, some animals like that. We had a lot of wild outdoor animals. Angry raccoons, attack coons, attack possums. What else do we have? We had just violent animals, lizards, just fucking little, just gangs of lizards and snails even that looked like they was wanting to fuck somebody up. So we had a lot of wild animals in our neighborhood. Anyhow, I've had some rough birthdays over the years. I started drinking there, when I was probably about 15, I remember, and I had some issues there. With a brother one time, actually, I wanted to get some vodka, and they had this man out milling around outside of the gas station, loitering, they call it, I guess in another language, but we call it usually in America, milling around. And this gentleman was milling around, and I gave him some money to get us some vodka. And I picked him up, and he goes inside, he gets the vodka and stuff, because I was underage. He comes back out, gets in the car. I figure I'm going to drive him around the corner, and I gave him money as well so he could get himself some. Well, this man told me he was the head button champion of the world, dude. And this guy was a vagrant. And I'll say this, man, when you're driving a car and there's a huge black man in the passenger seat and he tells you, and you don't know him, and he appears homeless and gives off every indication that he's homeless. Like, no indications was he giving off that he, received mail anywhere regularly. And he says he's the headbutting champion of the world, dude. It's alarming, man. And I remember I pulled my car over because if I'm getting headbutted, bro, I'm not doing it while I'm driving, So I pulled the car over, and he goes, yeah, I'll show you. And I didn't want to see. But I didn't know how to appease him and really make it out of this situation okay. So we're pulled over, and he takes my head, turns it to him, rears back, and this guy had a big head, looked like imagine a big head that's dark looking. And this guy rears his head back and just bam, slams it right into my head, blacked out, knocked me out unconscious. Definitely the champ as far as anyone I'd ever met. And I woke up, or came to, he was gone, vodka was gone, and that was it. That was another birthday. So I've had some tough birthdays, but this was a beautiful one. The kids were here, everybody was here. They had other people brought their children, And it was just nice, man. It's just nice to spend some family time together. It meant a lot to me. We got a lot of great calls that came in from people. Some I can't even get to this week, but I'm going to hop into a few of them. But that was my weekend. You know, I had New Orleans, came to Baton Rouge, saw the family. I'm going back to Los Angeles on Tuesday, next week in Madison, Wisconsin. Very excited. And thanks again for supporting the album. Let's get into some of these calls, man. We had some interesting calls come in. Let's check it out.
Hey, Theo. So, I'm out here in Portland, Oregon. I just want to get your advice. I moved out to Portland last year, and to further expand my social circle, I started playing that Tinder game.
On Tinder.
I was doing pretty good at the game for a while, but not so long ago, an odd stuff popped up. I'm looking for your advice on this, because I think you have some experience with the orgasmic meditation. You see, a 73-year-old woman, whose name I won't say, she was probably at peace back in her day, but now she's coming in at like a strong 4. Well, she asked me to be her stroker. Part of me is intrigued, and I want to explore something new. I like sex games and things, but I know it's a little different than that, the orgasmic meditation. I don't know if I want to have this lady laying in my lap while I look at her bits. Am I being shallow? What would you do? Oh, and do you have to pay for this shit too? Thanks, Theo.
So this gentleman is asking, based on my experience with orgasmic meditation, which is a seminar meetup type of group that I got involved in, and I'll tell you about that in a second. He's asking, what do I think about his meeting up or being asked to join a 70-some-odd-year-old woman in Portland, Oregon, to be part of orgasmic meditation? Well, my experience with orgasmic meditation, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a meetup where men pleasure women that they do not know in warehouses and small areas that have mostly cement floors, and sometimes indoor areas that are better hardwood, tile, carpet. This is what happened to me. I went to a seminar downtown. I got invited by an adult woman that I know and respect. A beautiful lady. She was in a film called Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and she was the love interest in it. Dottie is her name. And she also voiced Tommy Pickles in Rugrats. She's an adult. So she invited me to this event downtown in Los Angeles. She said it's orgasmic meditation. It'll be good for you. So I took her word for it, and I showed up. First, it's a bunch of people milling around having a little bit of a fruit plate. They had a fruit plate with a couple of basic, delectable fruits, I guess. I didn't have any of it. I had coffee, and then I'd bring in a small snack of my own, a thin bar, a 20-gram protein bar, creamy peanut butter. So everybody sits down, and then they bring a woman up to the front. She takes her pants off, takes her underpants, and then there's a man up there. He puts some gloves on, and he stimulates this woman outside of her vagina and, basically pussy area. Kitty. You say kitty. Sorry, I don't know. A lot of women don't like hearing stuff. It stimulates this lady out on the outside of her kitty, And next thing you know, they have other people come up to the front of the room who have been in the program, and they repeat the procedure where the man puts on gloves, puts like a lubricant on his finger. The woman lays down. The man sits right next to the woman. The woman has no pants on, and the man pleasures the woman for 13 minutes, and then there's like a little bit of a closing procedure at the end. Now, some of the women will reach climax or orgasms. Some of the men, you don't do anything. You keep your pants on, and everything stays natural like that. And the goal is this. The man is supposed to start realizing he can get a woman off, and he starts to carry that power around inside of him. And the woman reaches orgasm and doesn't have to reciprocate anything for the man. So to some people that might sound crazy, right? But, I mean, if you do the practice, you can really start feeling pretty good. So by the end of this seminar that day downtown in a warehouse, they partner people up, and you're sitting there just stringing some lady's bean, You string beaning, bro. You're just, doing the practice. There's a moderator walking around. There's 70 other people, who are laid out and just partnered up, and the men are doing their best. And you can tell what place you're coming in because the women are, hitting that finish line, bro. Just, it's like a big symphony of orgasms going off unless you're not doing the practice well. So, I remember at the end of this seminar thing, they had this one dude. He was in a wheelchair, because some people's just coming to meet women, and this is this gentleman seemed like he'd been having a tough time. He might have been a gangbanger or something. He was kind of thugging and his legs were really, feeble. His legs were practically braided. He was pretty much a gangbanger, it seemed like, and his hair looked kind of cornrowed up, and even his legs were kind of cornrowed almost, just braided, really. That's what kind of situation he was in. That's how hard he was banging, I guess. I don't know his existence, but I do know that he was in there, and we had to partner him up with somebody. So he gets partnered up with this lady who was really the prettiest lady and that I thought visually most attractive to me. So we get him out of the wheelchair. We lay him next to the lady. His hands still work, so he's out there, doing work, putting in time. He's just Morse coding out there on this broad. And next thing you know, she's spraying out and they're partying, and not like in a unprofessional way. Just, it's, you're okay within the confines of the practice of orgasmic meditation to, bring the woman to climax. So people are maxing out all across the room. And I'll say this, man, for what this practice does for people's spirit. Me and another guy picked that fella up out of his wheelchair and laid him next to this lady, his partner, that he got partnered up with. And then when we put him back in the chair at the end of the practice, he felt lighter. And that may sound crazy, but this gentleman felt lighter. And that's when I felt in my own self that this practice is lifting people. And so next thing you know, I showed up at this thing, and I leave that day, and I'm now, I guess I'm licensed. I'm licensed in the practice. And then they had meetups, and they still do. I don't go to them currently, but they have meetups around the city where you would meet up in like an abandoned, not abandoned because I sound very homeless, but you would meet up in a center or like a center where they sold art or bad art, and you would do the practice, And you could meet up during the day. Like there were days where I'd be driving across town doing errands and stuff in Los Angeles and then stop off, twiddle a bean and get, because it builds up your bravado. So I walk into a lady's place, like I don't have any problem really meeting ladies. That's not my issue, but I wanted to see what this experience was like. And you walk in and you bean up a girl, just bean me up, Scotty. And then you walk out and you don't achieve any stimulation yourself, but you walk out of there after a couple of ladies. It's like you're walking around with a couple 6-shooters, you got that power in your fingers, dude. You're like damn Harry Potter, dude. And you feel that empowerment inside of you, just that ribicus zibicus on that vagiticus, you feel like you're capable of bringing women to orgasm. And so you have that empowerment, and the women, they get to achieve orgasm and don't feel like they have to reciprocate anything for the men. So it's just a feeling of them being able to feel good. So anyway, if you want to get involved in something, orgasmic meditation, that's what it is. Sorry to have gone on so long about that, but I had to explain it to you. So I will say this, my buddy from Portland who asked about this, I would get into it because what you're going to learn is that all women deserve to feel pleasure. I was, getting partnered up with women that I probably would never normally have talked to maybe or gotten or reached, like, because you usually try to date within your age range and stuff. Like, these were women I wouldn't partner up with. So you start to realize that there's some commonality there, that we all want to feel something and that we all want to feel some sexuality. So I'd give it a shot, man. I'd give it a shot. It's called the Stroker. That's what it is called, as you mentioned. And I don't think there's a buy-in. It was free when I got in. So it might be free still. So get out there and give it a shot, man. I'd love for you to call back and let us know how it was if you did have a real experience. Let's hit another call, man. This past weekend.
Hey, how's it going, Theo? Big fan. My name's Malik. Come from Sacramento, California, and I want to ask you a question for some advice from you. One thing I've been struggling with a lot in my adult life is anger issues. I think it stems from, not being super close with my father growing up. Plus, I used to get bullied when I was a kid. I was a late bloomer. I hit puberty. Long story short, now I'm just some 6'2", 215-pound ripped up black dude who's pissed as fuck all the time. It sucks. You always seem like when shit happens to you in your podcast that you things may get to you, but you don't react violently. And I want to ask, what do you do to not get so fucking worked up? When things happen in your life. Oh yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for your time, Theo.
I mean, I appreciate you calling in, man. I mean, this is, it's tough to, how do you get rid of that childhood anger as you become an adult? If you had issues with your dad, you probably were used to dealing with things on your own. If it sounds like you guys weren't close. So now you are as an adult, probably still have some childhood stuff you're trying to deal with. But at least now you're not dealing with it on your own. You're talking about it. It's obvious you don't want to be, you don't want to be the angry black guy. I mean, not to say that, but that's the real of it. You don't want to be that. And you don't want to be just an angry guy, And that's real, man. I mean, it's neat to hear that the angry black guy doesn't want to be the angry black guy. That's what's interesting, Because usually you see the angry black guy, you're like, oh, that guy loves being that guy. But here he is, and he doesn't. And he doesn't love being that guy. So it's neat to hear this from your perspective, man. I got a friend who's a flasher, bro. I'm going to say that. And it's a disease. It's an illness that he has. And to hear it from his perspective is crazy. Because the last thing he wants to be is a flasher. Somebody that's just showing junk. Just SJing around town. He doesn't want that. He wants to do other stuff. He actually wants to do contractor work. He wants to be a contractor. A licensed contractor. But he's busy. He's caught up in the throes of this flashing because he's out there showing. And it's neat to hear this from your perspective, man. You don't want to be that guy. So if I had to give you some honest advice, man, I would say start doing some white people shit, bruh. Get one of those bedside things that make the sound ambient noise. White noise, they call it. That's about the whitest thing you could do. Get a machine that makes white noise. I think that kind of could help you tone it down. I mean, I pretty much mostly do white people shit these days. I used to do a lot of multicultural activities in the day. We used to pop off a little bit and get a little bit Latino and even, I'd get Russian sometimes with some of these ladies. But, now these days I'm keeping things Caucasian. I'll turn up a little bit sometimes if there's if it's a playoff game. So, I do appreciate you calling. It sounds like you that strong, bruh. You strong enough to get through this. Take a week off the gym and work out on what's inside, man. Just start working out on it. The first day you might not feel it, but you'll get there. You'll get there, man. Because that's the manliest thing. That's the heaviest weights, dude. Is whatever's weighing on our soul, bro. I swear. And I know I need to work harder on it myself. I mean, work with a battered wives club or a victims of violence. That might show you the end product of if you do feel like you have anger and violence issues at times, it could show you the end product of that and help you ward against, have a stop in your head and in your mind. You'll have an end idea of what the effects of that behavior look like. But damn, dog, if there's one thing I'm afraid of, dude, it's snakes. If there's another thing, it's hardy brothers, dude, that are angry. I'm saying this. Anybody can get in there and lift the weights. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is lift that bullshit that's off your brain. Get in there and work out that muscle. Because that's the irony of it is sometimes we get ourselves physically so in tune, but all we really want is to get that weight off of our chest or off of our shoulder. You said you might have been bullied growing up or whatever. I got attacked by animals on my birthday, man. I don't know if that's bullied, but it's wild, And I don't want to see you out there headbutting children like that man that did me, Maybe he was you. Maybe he had anger issues and he never dealt with them. And then there he is, 15 years later, headbutting school children for vodka. I'm not saying that could be you, but, if you don't get into the gym, that brain gym, that soul gym, and start to figure out what it is, things can get squirrely. This G-Pig's, wow, get off that laptop. Damn. He's so wild. This is this past weekend. And it's my birthday, man. I'm going to start off and say that. I know we talked about it last week a little bit on here. I was at my brother's home in Baton Rouge, and we taped the episode in his children's. He have 3 beautiful children, and we taped the episode in their playroom, where they keep their toys and capes and just daytime pieces of adventure. So here I am back at home in Los Angeles. And it's my birthday, man, and it feels pretty good, I'm 37. I am 37 years old, man. I'm an adult male. I've made a lot of poor choices, dude. Wet the bed until pretty much, I'd say early 30s, probably some anxiety, fear of nighttime. Actually, I remember as a child, I would get very scared of going to bed. And the darkness and anything that it could, that it could hide inside of itself and expose to me when I least expected it. And I remember at night I used to stand on my bed at night because I had a fear specifically of animals. We had a lot of dangerous animals in our neighborhood. I grew up in the stray animal belt. A lot of people know that. And I remember at nighttime that I would stand on my bed and urinate around my bed, around off of my bed, just off onto the floor, because I had heard that animals wouldn't attack if another animal had urinated locally. So yeah. So anyway, that was some of my youth, right there, experimenting with urine and trying to protect myself as a child, and just, I guess, coming through a lot of fear. A lot of fear as a young boy. But yeah, I'm 37, man, and it feels scary a little bit. It's kind of one of the last fears you can kind of say how old you are. And I haven't done that for a while. I've been hiding. I've tried to hide my age. I think I've had some ashamed about it. Just uncertainty. Didn't want people to know how old I was. Felt inferior of my accomplishments, that I hadn't done enough in a certain age. But now I'm trying to embrace it. I'm trying to be where I am. And where I am is 37 years of existence, according to a lot of creeps and a lot of brothers out there really perpetuating the idea of a flat earth. People saying that we've been living on a flat earth. Ran into a gentleman today outside of a Whole Foods type of, clean food store, and he was authentic in his beliefs that the earth is flat. So I had to listen to that for a while. Nice gentleman, though, I will say that. But yeah, man, I'm 37. Had a good day. What did I do? I got up. I went and had breakfast with a friend of mine, a rich friend. They well off, and Beautiful. They got two beautiful children, and they just have nice hair. And that's one thing about the rich I always noticed growing up. Their hair looked very like it was bought somewhere or sewn in, or like their hair was from France, like they had, France hair. And I remember the rich always seemed, like if you saw a rich dude with bad hair, you were like, this dude ain't rich. He's not as rich as he could be. Because I remember rich people always had nice hair. But anyhow, man, it's my birthday. I spent time with my friend this morning. I went bike riding today. My boy Dirt Nasty out there, and a couple of other buddies. We went bike riding on these motorized bicycles, and they can go up to like about 30 miles an hour. You just press a button, so you're on a regular bicycle, and next thing you know, you were just flying, bro. So we did that in Venice all day. I threw a little bit of that video. If you're on the YouTube watching, I threw a little bit of that video at the beginning. But anyhow, thank you for joining me. It's good, man. I've had some good birthdays over the years. I remember a friend of mine has a 1-year-old child. Now it's older, but at the time it was 1. And he had his birthday party at Perry Farrell's house. Or Ferry Farrell? The guy from Jane's Addiction, the lead singer. So that was pretty interesting. Go over there, celebrating for a 1-year-old. My ex-girlfriend threw me a surprise party one year. That was very nice. I had a roller rink birthday when I was young. And I remember this young black gentleman came to the party, and nobody knew him. We were children, and he showed up. His mother dropped him off, and he was pleasant. I think Demetrius or Dimitri. He was pleasant, kind of an Italian black kind of name, and he was pleasant, and he enjoyed the party and ate and enjoyed himself and did roller skating. And then his mom came and picked him up, and he went home. And he was nobody knew him though. None of the parents knew him, and none of the children knew him. So I guess that's one way to fit in, that is for sure. But I appreciate you guys joining me. What's been going on this past weekend? Really just kind of chilled, man. I had about 10 comedy sets. A lot of joy out there. Oh, I met Charlie Sheen, so that was pretty wild. I worked on this thing called Typical Rick, which is a Comedy Central series with Nick Swartzen and Simon Rex. And it was season 2 of that, and I had a small part on there. And I walk over to wardrobe on the set, and Charlie Sheen is sitting there, the big dog himself, Mr. Tiger's Blood, HIV, the Superman. He was smoking a cigarette, and so I got me a cigarette, and we started chatting and just sharing the breeze and just throwing ideas around. And I had this shirt on that had a picture of Michael Landon on it, and everybody knows I'm a big Michael Landon fan. And Charlie asked me about the shirt, and I told him about my fanship. And then he said that that one time he was escaping out of a rehab facility, and that one of Michael Landon's sons, one of Michael Landon's children, was in the facility. And as he was leaving, he saw the door open to the room of Michael Landon's son, and he asked him if he wanted to go party with him, and that they left out and partied for the weekend. So that was pretty cool, man. And he was really captivating. Great energy, super sweet guy. Just honestly nice as could be. And he looked like he'd been at spring break for about 30 years in Cancun. And it was just cool, man. It was just interesting to just kind of chat with him and just shoot the breeze. What else did we talk about? That was it, man. That was it, dude. And I'll tell you this, they had a couple ladies there on set, and I think any lady would have left with him, man. The dude, he just got that, I don't know. He just had the charisma, man. That charisma. And so that was it. So that was part of an interesting part of the weekend, was just getting to bump into Mr. Charlie Sheen himself. And a lot of times I think on my birthday I feel negative, or just like I haven't gotten things done. And then sometimes I'll remember, think about this, that you were a sperm, bro. Think about a sperm, dude. There's tons of them. You were a sperm, and now I was a sperm. Everybody pretty much was a sperm unless, somebody's, doing something different. But now, look at me. I'm 6 feet tall. I have hands and arms, and if anything, I've achieved a lot. I'm probably 30 million times my original size. I'm really on another level. So even just thinking about that, about how far I've come physically, that's pretty amazing. So that's one thing to even just think about on your birthday, that even just physically, that you've come a long way as a human. As a human. And I felt a lot of joy today because my neighbors made me a nice meal. And I got home and they had made me a meal. And they let me invite a friend. And we went over there and we ate. We had some pieces of London broil. And they had a salad that had all kinds of cranberries and avocados and delectable tidbits and this and that. Things that make your face feel good when you put them inside of your mouth. And we also had a little bit of coconut ice cream. As nighttime set in, we had a little bit of that coconut ice cream. And god damn, that shit just feels like it's just fucking the inside of my mouth, man. I love coconut. I love coconut, man. And when I die, I'd be happy to just be packed in it. Just pack me in coconut and astronaut ice cream. If you've ever had that, it's dehydrated ice cream. And they sell it at museums. And it's a very nice treat to have in a museum or in other buildings elsewhere. I think back to my first birthday in Los Angeles. I was living with two friends. I was sleeping under a man's bed, actually. And I think I've mentioned this before. For $150 a month on a large pool raft. He had one of those pool rafts. And I slept under his bed and up under the edge of his bed. Except for if he was out of town, I would honestly, I'd get into that man's bed. And even though I didn't know him super well, I knew him. We're buddies. But I would lay in his bed, dude, and I would sleep in there. And that's kind of a wild feeling, I think, sleeping in another man's bed and just letting yourself just be natural, like that. Because another man's bed feels like another man, it feels like you being bad, and you just Goldilocks in a gentleman's, and you don't know. And he didn't make his bed. That's another thing I remember. He didn't make his bed. And getting into another man's bed that he doesn't even make, it really makes you feel a little bit gutter. It puts the guh in gutter, dude. You get in there and it's just not the same as if somebody's bed is made and you get in. It feels a little less, I don't think it's homoerotic. I just think it's just nasty. It feels less nasty that way. So yeah, that was my first birthday in LA. I was paying $150 a month and sleeping under a man's bed. And also I remember my responsibility was we didn't have a refrigerator. And my responsibility was to get us a refrigerator. And it happened to be my birthday. And I finally found a refrigerator on Craigslist. I get the dude to bring it over, get it off of his truck. And I'm trying to be friendly. I'm from the South and I'm just fucking at least partly friendly. And I say, well, I can get it inside. I don't need any help, guys. I want to be a man. And I'd been going to the gymnasium at the time. And, I might have even been on muscular uppers and stuff that were making me feel strong. So I'm like, I'll get the refrigerator myself. So next thing you know, I'm trying to get this refrigerator. I'm pushing it down this little side alley by the apartments. Right up to the back door of the apartment we were staying in. And I get it in the doorway. And it gets stuck. And I'm literally running and shouldering this refrigerator trying to beat this refrigerator into our apartment. It's all, I mean, the grill thing on the back, or I don't know what it's called, looks like a vent kind of thing, but where the Freon and stuff is all broken up and shit. And I remember just leaning against it at the end and just crying, bruh. Just crying, man, like a little labia of, of the world, just like a not even a strong labia, and just crying. And that was my birthday. I just remember, this is my fucking birthday. Here I am crying, trying to beat a refrigerator in, and into an apartment. And that was a dark one, man. That was a dark birthday. But this wasn't that today. Today was nice and calm and adult. And it was one of those days where I realized I gotta be an adult, man. I don't want to grow up sometimes. But at some point, you have to do it. You got to adult. You gotta quit, doing kid shit, man. And I think in the past year I've done some of those things, I quit drinking. Some people don't know that, but I do. I do not drink. I'm 8 months now of not drinking. I struggle sometimes with some cigarettes. They know that. And I struggle sometimes as well with, trying to stay off of pornography, which is a huge issue. And I'd love, if people are going to call in next week, to give some calls. If you have some issues with that, I'd love to know about it. I want to delve into that a lot next week. I'm going to give you that hotline number right now to leave a voicemail, and it's 985-664-9503. And if you want to call in, if you're struggling with masturbation, masturbatory activities, and I just want to know how you're dealing with it, the ups and downs of it. Also, if you've had some shitty jobs, I might talk about that as well. Because at a certain point, masturbating is a shitty job, man. It's a habit that you get into, and dealing with that pornography and dealing with that. I'm just amazed at how many people have reached out to me and said, "Look, man, I'm really struggling with this. I'm really struggling with that activity." But I'm feeling fortunate today. I'm feeling better this week, and thinking about what do I need to get done in my life to make me feel, of my age, to make me feel 37. There's a lot of things that have been just sitting on the diving board, that I've been afraid to just kind of throw into the pool, and now it's time to cut it up, dudes. Now it's time to bust some straight up gunt. You feel me? Now it's time to hum this gunt out into the ether. And that's what I'm going to do. That is what I'm going to do. And I remember I used to have a lot of dreams of things that I never got done. I remember I wanted to sea-doo around the world when I was young. And I wrote a letter to Sea-Doo at the time, and that's like a jet ski type company. But that was the only one they had at the time. I think it was called a Sea-Doo. Seadoo. Sea-Doo. And you could go pretty far on them. And I used to live along a river, and I would do them there and get on them. And I remember emailing them, writing them a letter and saying, I want to sea-doo around the world. I can do this. And they never wrote back. So I've had some dreams that haven't really come to fruition, I wanted to be a dancer. I'll be honest about that, dude, It's kind of it's a tough thing to admit. I'll admit that. But I wanted to be a dancer. In my 20s, I felt, dude, sometimes I got out of bed and my feet just felt so light. My feet just felt light. Like I could do it. And then I hurt my back, dude. Painting a house and just dangerous. Really painting it just in dangerous heat. In over 100-degree heat. And I was wrapped in this Visqueen suit because a bunch of bees were trying to get me. And I hurt my back, and that ended kind of some of my dancing dreams. But I still have other dreams, I still have other things that I want to get done. But here I am, 37, Here I am, 37, and I'm looking forward to this year. And I'm looking forward to trying to put some safe pressure on myself so that I can get some things done, man.
So anyhow, I want to get into some calls, man. We had some great calls. I appreciate everybody reaching out on the hotline. And that number is 985-664-9503. And I'm not offering advice here, but I will try to offer basic life suggestions based on experiences that I've had. Because I've been out there, man. I've been involved in some dirty things, you know? And I've made love to some busted women out in the existence, you know? And I've done the drugs and and I've done some naughty things. I'll tell you one birthday I had that stands out. I was with this man, David was his name, and he had 2 different color eyes. And I've always thought those people were trouble, honestly. When you see somebody and they got 2 different color eyes, it's not they weren't fully designed, I never thought. And this boy, David, we were on this party bus kind of thing, and it was like a tour bus. And I was going to sleep. And he liked to party, and do drugs and do uppers. And he said, hey, man, let's go party. It's about 1:30 in the morning. I was like, man, I'm tired, man. I can't. I'm tired. And he goes, well, I'll go get us some drugs, And this is when I was doing drugs and enjoying drugs. And so I said, well, look, man, if you come back with drugs, I'll do them with you. Trying to be supportive. And then I fall asleep. About 4:30 in the morning, this dude rolls back in, and he's got some steroids on him, some testosterone 400. And that's a steroid, Mexican steroid, horse uppers for horses and equestrians. And so he's like, let's party, dude. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing steroids, dude. First of all, they take about 2 weeks to get in your system. So even if we hit a club right now, we're not going to feel the vibe from it, We're not going to feel But he had me, shoot him in the ass with these drugs, and he kind of put on some athletic-looking gear and went to like a late rave or something that was popping off around 5 a.m. So that was a birthday that I had. That was a bit lonely. All right, man. Let's get into some of these calls, dude. We got some amazing calls that came in. I want to hear what's up. We're about to hit this hotline right here. All right, we got this call from Franklin, North Carolina.
Hey, bruh. My girl has 3 really long, thick, bristly hairs growing out of her navel. I plucked one while she was sleeping. The root was really bulbous and girthy and smelled like bone broth. Should I love her or leave her?
Wow, man. Yeah, that's the hairy navel, dude. I haven't dealt with that. I've definitely dated a girl with a very small head for a while. And even, it was almost just like her neck had gotten real fancy at the top and had a mouth on it and stuff. And I remember her head just felt like an adventurous kind of melon. It was about a 3/4 head, maybe, of a regular head. And that made me nervous, dude. I dated a girl her mouth smelled like meat around her mouth. Smelled like different meat. Like she was just hiding carpaccio under her skin or something around her mouth. Or putting some kind of meats or something on her mouth at night. And I know she wasn't. I mean, that's crazy. She didn't even eat beef jerky or do any of those, nothing like that. But she had this very meat, this kind of barbecue-ish kind of feeling and scent around her lips. That made me nervous. I hooked up with this girl one time in South Carolina or North Carolina her breasts kind of felt like shit diapers a little bit. Like a baby, like if a baby has like a poop diaper, you can mold the diaper and it'll stay that way. And her breasts were like that. You could shape them and they would stay in whatever shape you kind of put them in. So that was very baffling. But I never said a word, I never said a word, dude, because I've had things that I'm sure, and do have things that I'm sure women don't like about me. I've had hairy back, had hairy buttocks. Sometimes I get it kind of tended to. They got a Persian lady over here who really hates hair, and she'll go at it for you for about $50 and really attack it. But I used to be nervous, self-conscious that I had hair kind of on my buttocks and back. And I even remember I would walk out of the room backwards. Like if I were leaving a bedroom, if I'd been making love with a lady and I'm walking out of the room, I would walk backwards like I'm that dude in Silence of the Lambs, but I would like walk backwards like I was Michael Jackson, just like, I gotta go to the bathroom, just walk out of the room like that, dude. Because I was just self-conscious about that. I had a fever one time really bad and made love to a woman, and I know to this day that she questions probably the heat that was coming out of my body. It was beyond normal. It was like 103-degree fever I was fucking at, and that's very intense probably. So I don't know what she thought. Maybe that I had some type of a rabies, or that I was just angry, just so angry, to be coming in that hot physically. So I think you got to think about that, man. Like, how many hairs and weird body things do you have, not to scold you, but to let you know that, dude, you probably have countless deficiencies. Countless, man. We all do. So you can't really hold your lady to that crazy regard, I don't think, maybe celebrate it. Get her a barrette. Get her a barrette up and just pop a beautiful barrette, like a nice little church brooch for your hair, and put it on those hairs, or gel them down, make a game about it, floss your teeth with them, dude, celebrate it. Maybe instead of, trying to sneak them out of her body while she's resting. And how hard does she even sleep if you're able to pull a hair out of her body? I'd worry more about, some of her sleep patterns than about some of her hair patterns. And just love her, man. That's what I say, dude. Because here's the thing. If you love her for everything, bruh. If she has one leg or one lip or one, or only one fucking hat or anything, dude, love her. If you're going to love her. That's what I say. If you say you're going to love somebody, then love them. Otherwise, don't bullshit them up top, man. But if you want to mail that hair in, dude, email me and I'll show the hair to people. Just to prove that you're out there doing that, sneaking hairs out of people's body in the middle of the night, bruh. Damn, dog. That's some Boo Radley shit right there, bruh. But I do appreciate you checking in. And I say just embrace her, man. Show her some bad hair you have. And y'all just be fucking hair bears, dog. Hair bear up. Hair bear up. All right, I got a couple of announcements to make. I'm going to cut to a couple more calls, man. First of all, if you're watching on YouTube or iTunes, go ahead and subscribe. Be a subscriber. Rate the podcast. Give me some decent ratings, because I'm trying to get enough listeners where I can have some advertisers. That's just the business side of that. I have some comedy dates coming up. I feel very grateful to have the ability to be at Comedy on State this weekend, March 23rd through 25th in Madison, Wisconsin. And then I'm going to be at the Punchline in Sacramento, April 21st through 23rd. So I'm excited about that. People have asked me about the shop, theovon.com/store. We got some Got Hamps shirts in there. You can still get the album, 30-pound bag of hamster bones. We were doing well on the charts. We're still doing pretty good, but we could pick it up if you want to grab the album. Talking about my boy that I grew up with, this boy named Danny, who had this deficiency in his neck. So I'll talk about that. All right, let's take another call here. And this is from Canada. This is Monica.
Oh, hey, Theo. This is Monica. I'm calling from Vancouver, Canada. And I'm just wanting to get your male perspective on an issue I'm having. So I'm about 27. I've been dealing with depression and social anxiety probably for the last 10 years or so. And last year was especially pretty rough. Probably the last 6 or 8 months I've been really sad and just feeling lonely and just like empty. And on top of that, I gained a bunch of weight. So you just feel so unattractive and you just want to hide away from everybody. But at this point, I've come to the realization that being alone at this point isn't really good for my psyche, and I know that it's time for me to get out there and pick myself up again and get into the dating world. So I guess I'm just hoping you might have looking for some advice from you to, get some confidence back and get my shit together, hopefully. So any thoughts you have would be greatly appreciated.
Wow. Well, I mean, first, look, Monica, I'll tell you this. I love you. I'll say that right out of the gate, you thick little muffin, If you're putting on a pound or two, you could just hug me. I bet it feels good. That's the good thing about if you do put on a little bit of weight, when you hug somebody, you're really giving them more joy. You ever hug a bony person? It's like holding on to a pillowcase full of deer antlers, But you hug a real meat dog, or a meaty or stronger or thicker Rubenesque. That's beautiful, So I want to say, first of all, that I love you, and I feel you. And it sounds like you're putting a lot on your plate, you want to feel better. And then you don't want to be alone. And I can sympathize with that. Regarding the weight, you would be surprised how much getting in shape and getting your blood going makes everything else better. It's specifically your mindset. Like you get a little bit of activity, physical activity, your mind is gonna start to get in shape as well. And I would try to approach your weight loss not with I have to lose weight or I'm gonna lose weight, but with the idea or the mindset that I'm gonna live a healthier lifestyle. Then it's not just about the weight. And I find that people who approach it that way, that I'm gonna live a healthier lifestyle, tend to lose weight and actually keep it off, because then they're headed in an overall better direction. And this is going to sound kind of silly, but I promise that this works, right? When you see a food that you want but you shouldn't have, don't say I can't eat that. I would say I don't eat that. That way you are taking ownership. You're taking control as opposed to letting the food take the control, if that makes any sense. I don't eat that. That's way frickin', then you're like a thug. You're a thug out there. Whereas if you say, I can't eat that, then you are in this kind of, you're being attacked kind of by the food. So I don't eat that. It's a lot more power for you. And I feel like that will just empower you overall. And I think those are some simple things you can do to start moving like a physically healthier direction. And in terms of like social anxiety, I can 100% relate. I spent honestly about 5 years of my life sleeping in Santa Monica. I was depressed, and I would get uncomfortable being in social circles, and I would lay in my bed and I would just sleep. And I would eat peanut butter and jellies during the daytime, and I would hope for the best, but not act for the best. And I thought that one day I would just wake up, or from some nap, I would just wake up and suddenly the world would be better, or I would feel better. But that never happened. All I really did was push my problems like 5 years down the road. And there's no magic way to make yourself feel comfortable, like in a social setting. I think one thing that does help is just trying to make each time you're in a social setting a little bit better than the last time by making more effort. Introduce yourself to people. I think that's the best thing. Just, hey, I'm Theo. Hey, I'm Monica. Because immediately you're taking ownership. You're taking control of the situation. And even if they don't respond well, at least then that's them being antisocial. That's not you being antisocial. And also try to find areas, maybe you could be looking in the wrong circles. Like, dude, I went to nightclubs for years, bruh. And it was a bunch of Persian people in there, usually adult men, or very tan, like men that had been in the gymnasium and looked like their muscles were just trying to climb out of their shirt and leave them because their muscles didn't even like them. Like their muscles just wanted to get divorced from their skeletons and just be done with them, you know? And veins blowing up out of their chest and neck, and then a lot of Persian men wearing cologne, heavy cologne. And I would be there and I would feel like something was wrong with me, you know? But really everybody in the club, or 90% of the people, were miserable. They were just trying to look like they were having a good time. And one of my problems was I was going to clubs. I was looking repeatedly in the same place for social acceptance, and a place that really I never did like. I never did like clubs, man. I like more of like being around a fire. I even scrapbook, bruh. I fucking scrapbook, dude. I'm not saying I'm enjoying some scrapbookers club with a lot of ladies and stuff, but I needed to find other areas to get social in. And once I started doing that, I would just hang out at a comedy club. Those people, it's just a different vibe. There's no great way to do it, but you got to make an effort. And whether that's the next time I go to a party, I'm going to introduce myself to 2 people, or I'm going to pet an animal. You could even start off at a petting zoo. You could start off at a petting zoo and get out there, or meet children. Go to a place where a lot of children are. If you know you don't have any issues with children, and meet children, because they're going to be accepting. They'll be cool. And then just use some of those same skills you learn with children, or even with animals, with adults. And also, give yourself permission to be uncomfortable. You don't have to be comfortable. That's another myth. We're not always comfortable, bruh. So give yourself permission to not be comfortable. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. Okay. Instead of oh, fuck, I'm uncomfortable. Oh, God. Oh, I'm so uncomfortable. This shirt, it doesn't feel, these shoes, they don't match this. Otherwise, it's oh, fuck, I'm uncomfortable. I don't know why. Don't pin the tail on your own donkey if you don't know why you're uncomfortable. I used to do that. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. Bah, 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 bah. But I'll say this. I heard a quote once that insecurity is the belief that this is only happening to us. There's so few feelings in so many people that there's a lot of people who are having the same feelings you are. So you gotta voice them. You gotta share them. Find somebody else that looks awkward as fuck, and boom, that's your first friend. If you feel awkward, find somebody else that's awkward. They're easy to pick out. And then bam, now y'all have dual awkwardness. 2 awkwards. You know what they say, 2 awkwards make a comfort. So I think that could help. I hope some of that shit helps, Be at the library, even though they have a lot of deviant homeless at the library, and a lot of them are, I had some insane experiences when I first got to LA. A lot of homeless, and they do masturbation too at the library. You know that. And Monica, I just want to say I love you. I hope you feel better. You're probably a good woman. You probably are. And if you care enough about yourself to reach out to other people, that's a great start. So you're already doing way better than I was. Those years I was just lying in my bed, just eating peanut butter and jellies, and caught up in the throes of pornography and just in the darkness. So I'm proud of you there. You got this. Just G up a little. Drink a Red Bull. G up. Even something as little as getting yourself a new pair of sneakers or something like that can kind of, it can just excite you. Some small motivation. And don't do it all in one day. You don't have to change today. You just have to progress today. So progress, not perfection. That's kind of what I'm aiming at overall. All right, we got one more call here from Santa Clarita, California, Spanish Town.
Hey, Theo, I got a question for you. A little bit of a situation I'm in. My girlfriend, she works at a gym, okay? She's a personal trainer. When she first got hired on, I kind of had an issue with her becoming that, being a personal trainer, being that she's extremely attractive.
Okay.
So I knew guys would hit on her. But anyways, I went forth with it, and I let her know, do your thing. And she ended up becoming a personal trainer. And so far, everything has been kosher. up until today, actually, where actually she texted me and she told me, by the way, I was at work today, and the GM of the gym ends up letting her know, like, hey, how'd you get such a nice ass? Which, in my mind, is fucking ridiculous. That's just offensive. You're the GM, you're the general manager of the gym. You don't ask a question like that to your employee.
Yeah.
And from what I know, this is the GM is a generally attractive guy in his younger years, and I just was like, she told me this, which I appreciated, but my question is, I guess, is how would you react to that situation? I mean, you find out this guy's kind of creeping on your girl like that, and I don't even know if it's creeping. I don't know if I should be mad about that, jealous. What should I be, I guess? I don't know. At first I was mad, but that's the question, man. I'm just wondering what you think of it, okay? Let me know.
Awesome, dude. Well, look, thanks for calling in with that, bro. You got some issues there. Your lady's at the gym. The owner of the gym is hitting on her, trying to frickin', attack that gunt from the inside. You feel me? And I respect that. I mean, that's nature. He's just being a part of nature. It sounds like he's being inappropriate. But dude, do you really want a girlfriend that other dudes aren't hitting on? I mean, maybe you do, but I don't think you do. Like, that's one of the consequences. If you're dating a chick that's hot, or a chick that works at the gym, bro, any gym, it could just be a single barbell in a basement somewhere, in a cavern, and men will wander in there and hit on her if she says she's a personal trainer. There's something sexy about that, about the woman that works at the gym and trying to, be sensual with her. So that's going to happen. So I think you kind of want that. I mean, you want your girl to be attractive. You want other men to want her. I mean, I'll be honest, bro, right when you even mentioned your girl that he thought she had a nice ass, I wanted to see your girl's ass, bro. And I'm not saying I'm proud of that thought, but I wanted to see your girl's ass, dude. And I wanted to see that ass. I was thinking about it. Man. I was picturing, just whatever her ass looked like, the beautiful little globes and little, just being dirty, bro. I thought about being dirty. So, that's the problem with us, man. There's we got the sin inside of us. We got that innermost layer of just dirt ball. It's just that dirt ball. It's almost like we have an extra layer of skin on us, and it's just a bunch of dirt ball cellophane, Because we want to be nasty as men, man. I mean, look, I dated a hot chick one time. You know what she did, bro? She fucking cheated on me, dude. So, that's what you get, bro. It can happen. It's one of the risks you get. That's why the old school move, date a busted chick and pretend she's hot. That way, if you pretend well enough, you think she's hot, she thinks she's hot, and everybody wins pretty much, I mean, that's one school of thought. And on another level, I would worry less about how you feel about the situation and think about how she feels. I mean, she's getting lurked on by this, as you said, an aging GM who looked better in the past. That's a way creepy situation for her to be in. So I would keep your concern right there, just as to how she feels. If she's handling it and she's confident, then you got to show up with that confidence and be supportive right next to her, dude. You can't be getting too insecure. Because women it's not in their nature to want to be with an insecure man. It's not in their nature, bro. Not in their nature. If you put an insecure man, or even an insecure baby, I bet, out in a field, and you put a woman out there who has breast milk in her, and that baby's insecure, he's like, I bet you 3 out of 10 women wouldn't breastfeed that baby. But you put a tough-ass baby out there, a little Italian baby, a German baby, then women are going to want that, because they're going to feel that security that that baby knows what he's doing. That baby's combing his hair. You know, that baby's wearing a gold chain. That baby, I'll breastfeed that baby. Yeah, because if you're insecure about being interested in her, then that's going to make her question whether or not you believe in yourself. And if she starts questioning that, then immediately she's going to start questioning whether or not she believes in you. And I think that's just nature. You know, that's the insecurity food chain. You know, so you want to be secure. That's the place you want to come from. Confidence. See if she's all right. You know, because she's the one who's got to take that ass to the gym and do all the work. I don't even know if you have a job, bruh. You didn't mention you're employed. So I don't know really what you're up to. I mean, I'm supportive of you if you don't have a job. But I'd love for you to be working. But yeah, man, I mean, it's really unwise to ask somebody to be more secure in you than you are. And then I'd let him know. I'd let that dude know. You know? I would let him know in like a weird kind of trill, thug, maybe homoerotic way, dude. Here's what I would do. I would send that dude a letter, the GM dude, and just an anonymous letter. Doesn't know it's from you, doesn't know what woman it's regarding. And I would say, if you keep hitting on my woman, I'm going to track you down and fuck you, bruh. That's what I would say. And I would underline fuck, and I would underline bruh. That way he's going to know you're a little askew. And then I would hashtag let's fuck. That's what I would do. So that way he's like, wait, you don't want me hitting on your girl, or you're going to fuck me, and then you're saying let's fuck anyway. Now this dude is going to be, first of all, that makes you seem way secure. You know? You're so secure in your lady, you'll bang this fucking dude? That's secure to me, man. And second of all, it lets that dude know, shit, you know, if he doesn't want to end up copulating with a man, then he needs to watch what he's doing. And he could be doing that to other women, so that could really stop a lot of his behaviors, man. So that's kind of a beautiful idea. But those are just some suggestions that I have. What else, guys? I think that's kind of it maybe for today, man. It's getting late. Where are we at? It's getting late, bro. And then actually I got one more thing. My mother sent me a card. So I'm going to check this card out. It says, happy birthday. Wishing you a wildly wonderful year. I hope 2017, your 37th year, will bring you happiness and self-satisfaction. I love you, Theo, your mom. Really nice of her to send me that beautiful card right there. My mother doesn't have much, but, you know, she doesn't give up. You know, she wasn't equipped with a lot of, sometimes I don't think, all the emotions that I wanted her to have as a mother when I was young. But she never stops working to try and show me that she cares, even if she can't, and not because it's her own fault, but even if she can't always make me feel like she cares. And I think that's it's pretty remarkable to not give up, man. Hard-working woman out of Illinois, you know, and I admire a hard-working woman, man. But yeah, my mother and I had some, you know, just weird stuff growing up. You know, I just never felt, just didn't feel her care sometimes, you know. Just got stuck in this care void. But she never has stopped, ever, trying to let me know that she does care. And that's pretty remarkable. It's the best we can do sometimes as people, man. I don't know. I'll take us out with some music. Let me find a good song. I appreciate you guys being here with me for my birthday. I know I'm a little tired. Maybe Sunday night isn't the night to do this. I don't know. You know, I don't know. But thank you also for supporting the album. 30-pound bag of hamster bones. It's on iTunes. We got a new album that's going to come out soon. The material from the Netflix special will be released on iTunes as well at a fair price. I'm about fair price things, and that sort of thing. You know, I'm not out here trying to make a buck. You know, but I'm trying to make something of myself. You know, I'm trying to make something of my 37th year. You know, it's going to be wild, dude. All right. Widespread panic. And I mean, I just felt I felt just like a bunch of damn doves had just climbed into my veins and were just making my heart beat with their wings, man. I felt just equipped with the spirit. But that could have been the drugs for sure. But I got the shakes out there. I remember after that show, I laid out in a parking lot of a Hampton Inn, which is basically just a traveler's motel, really. And I smoked a pack of menthol cigarettes by myself, laying on my back, looking up at the stars. If there were stars, hell, it could have been cloudy, dude. It was BYOS at that point. I mean, I was pretty much leaking feelings, and I had the shakes a little bit, man. And I remember just wondering what my life was going to be like. And then the next day I went and stalked one of my ex-girlfriends for a little while. So anyway, good to see you guys, man. It is a Monday, March 27th, and it is the year 2017. And that was Alabama Shakes with a little bit of hold on, because sometimes you got to hold on, you know? Sometimes you hit you'll hit a moment where you got to hold on. You can't let go, man. Whether you white knuckling it, you know, and you holding on, you know, and just making your own foundation, or if you holding on to somebody else, or if you're holding on just to an invisible power out in the universe, you know, sometimes you got to hold on. I just got back from Madison, Wisconsin, and that's white people country. You know, it's actually about 85% Caucasian, healthy. A lot of healthy people up there. A lot of thighs. It's really kind of a lot of brontosaurus type builds, you know, just solid, hardy, heavy hearts up there. Probably got 9 aortas on them up there in Wisconsin. Friendly, a lot of friendly people. You can feel when they shake your hand that they care a little bit, you know, and you can feel that, you could feel it up there. And I enjoyed it, man. I was at Comedy Club on State, and I want to thank everybody who came out, and we had a blast, man. We sold out a couple of shows, and everybody came and enjoyed themselves, and I enjoyed myself, man. I really did. I had a nice time out there, just being in the town of Madison. It's a pretty liberal area, but it has like a lot of conservative values. I really think it's a nice. It's kind of progressive conservative, I feel like. And I feel like it's on a great track, that town of Madison, Wisconsin. It rained a little too, so caught a little free water there. And that was nice. Good to be here. Thank you guys for joining us this past weekend. What else, man? We'll get into the news. I'll chop into the news. I don't catch the news that much, but this weekend I absorbed some. The healthcare bill, it didn't pass, you know, and on a lot of these news networks, they were just really beating apart the politicians or whatever that were putting it together. You know, I just hope that they figure one out that does pass, you know, that does work for everyone. I mean, it's a tough issue. You know, I don't really have a million thoughts on politics, but when it comes to healthcare, you know, I feel like it's almost inhumane if I don't feel like everyone deserves to be well or deserves to feel taken care of, especially in America where, you know, I'm not a bookkeeper, but I'm sure if you got down to the brass tacks, we could find a way to afford it. But then you got a lot of people that don't take care of themselves, you know, and so that's really the other side of the issue. Like, you know, if somebody's just laying in the park all day shooting heroin and they, you know, and they don't care about their lives, but you're taking somebody's tax money who does care, I can understand why some people would think differently, So I certainly see the different perspectives. But I hope we find one that, that works for everybody. I really hope we do. And I don't know if there's a way, I don't really know, but it does bug me sometimes, that some of the news stations just, I don't know if they really seem interested in finding a way as much as they do just beating apart the people that are trying to figure it out. I just don't think the news is as helpful as it could be sometimes. When it comes to like political issues, healthcare is super important. Everybody needs a Band-Aid or a lung. Hell, I'll probably blow through something. I had a sister that was born with a bad liver. She only had about a quarter liver in her, and so she needed a liver transplant early. And I know that if it weren't for the healthcare system, we wouldn't have had that organ, And she's a little chatty, I'll admit that, but she's alive, and so I'm grateful to the systems that made that happen. In another country that might not have happened, might not have had my sister, So anyway, that's just my little personal thought on that. I think we got a lot of issues, man. If I were a political official, there are some things I would do, man. I'd have a neighbor day, where we find out who's in America. Because I feel like we don't know who's here. Kind of like roll call. Remember roll call when you were in the 3rd grade or the 7th grade or whatever? Whenever they finally checked on who was attending, and they would just call your name. I think they should do that. Just a day where, everybody meets their neighbor, Everybody go out in the street and let's see who lives around you. Let's get a head count, And if somebody doesn't come out in the street, then they're creepy as fuck, dude. And maybe we need to keep tabs on them, Because if they don't want to be mingling a little bit, then that's, something's up. Something's awry, That's kind of like a political thing that pops in my head sometimes. If that's even political, I don't even know. It's just something that I would think would be pretty neat. Outside of that, another issue that sits on my heart sometimes is education reform, I just don't feel like we teach children skills that can really help them, like how to interact with one another, how to know if your friend is having a tough time, how to cheer somebody up if they're not doing well, I mean, I know it sounds like kind of some pretty gay shit, but I mean, I feel like those are things we could be teaching kids, I don't really care if Lamont knows about social studies, but I do care if he understands that one of his friends is maybe getting abused at home or something, and he can recognize it, I just feel like we could teach kids acceptance. We could teach kids, how to love one another. I just feel like we could do a little bit better job of education reform in that sense. Just teaching people how to care, I don't think you should be able to graduate the 5th grade until you're not racist. How about that? That'd be a great class, or until you realize what it means to be a contributing member of society, I just feel like there's a lot of things we could really be teaching children that's not factual, that's more instinctual and more, more of the heart, I guess. And that's just a thought of mine. I'm not trying to push my beliefs on anybody. I'm just, I guess, sharing whatever's in my brain. Another thing I've wondered is if people who have served in the military, if their vote shouldn't count for more than those who haven't. Like maybe their vote counts for 1 1/4 votes. And that might sound crazy to some people, but, I think it would certainly teach us all to have a different respect for our military. I mean, if somebody puts their ass on the line, I feel like they should get a little more, and maybe it's just they, get better packages when they're finished. But I just think that would be interesting if their vote counted for more than those of us who haven't served. And I haven't served. It's one thing I regret a lot. I mean, I wasted a few years of my life, surely, just probably spraying out and thinking about owning animals and, chasing trim around and, all kinds of just void fillers, where I probably could have sacrificed some of my time and got out there and into the bazooka trade, or whatever else they're doing, knife fighting, everything. So anyway, those are some things that popped into my head. Another news piece, Pizzagate, if you guys are familiar, but Pizzagate is basically Italian food and child molestation have joined forces in Washington, D.C., I believe it is. And it's something where there's, politicos and fancy pants people getting together in the middle of the night to do child molestation at a pizza place. And that seems to me like bullshit. I'm going to have to go ahead and throw that out there because, I've spent a lot of time around Italians, and they kiss, they'll kiss you on the neck. The men will kiss you on the neck sometimes. If you're at the racetrack, I'll see them sometimes kissing each other if their horses win and getting excited, and they eat for a long time and look at each other in the eyes and stuff and drink wine. And I get what's going on. They're real loving, but I don't think that's going to lead to them loving a child so much that they're molesters. So that's why that whole story to me just seems like a bag of cat's bottoms, if you really look at that. If you want to find some child molesters, dude, go to a poor neighborhood. I think your interests are better looking around there. In a lot of wealthy neighborhoods, they have these HOA programs or these HOA groups, which are homeowners association that can make rules about who can live in the neighborhood and who cannot. So a lot of fancy neighborhoods can keep pedophiles out. So pedophiles, they're stuck at the gates, and unless they got long arms, they're not going to be able to reach the children, of the rich. But now I grew up in a poor neighborhood, and I'm not trying to say that that's anything special or that I'm better than anybody because of that, but we had surely some couple touchers by us, and we used to play kickball with two adult touchers. These men, I'll tell you this, they had a law in Louisiana. That's where I'm from. They had a law there in Louisiana, and that's one of the big 50 states, and where if you were a registered sex offender, that means you were, part of the union, I guess, and that you had to go door to door and knock on the door and tell the people in the home, in your neighborhood, you had to go door to door in your neighborhood and let people know that you are a pedophile, right? Well, in our neighborhood, it was all single parent families, and half the parents worked. So us kids, we were home alone all the time. So you'd have these touchers coming to the door, knocking and saying, I have to let you know that I'm a registered sex offender. Is your mother home? And we'd be like, we were children. We're like, she's not home right now. Which is baffling in hindsight. Because then you got a pedophile standing right there with his desserts, really. And that was a law in Louisiana that you had to do that. Thankfully, once you know who the pedophiles are, the game changes, A lot of, these pedophiles and touchers, it's when you don't know who they are that they can practice their art, But so we knew. We used to play kickball with these two guys, Mr. Daniel. I don't remember the other guy's name. He was kind of swampy looking, didn't really take care of himself. But we played kickball with him. And Mr. Daniel, this one dude he was combing his hair all the time. He'd comb his hair 9 times in a minute. Like he was just like he was just trying to just comb the darkness right out of his soul, like he just wanted to comb the touching out of himself, you know? Or like he would look handsome enough that he wouldn't be a pedophile anymore. I felt bad for him sometimes. And then this other guy who didn't never comb his hair, the irony. But we played kickball with him, and once we knew that they were, what some of their hobbies were, it took a lot of their power away. We'd fuck with them and, roll the ball, man. You ain't getting this ass, bro. Roll the ball. It almost put you on a level playing field once you knew who they were. So I guess there was some value in them going door to door, because then you put a name and a face with the dark arts that they had inside of them. So, but yeah, you want to find some kitty touchers. I don't think you need to mill around, a Papa John's out there in Washington, D.C. Why don't you come on down to Covington, Louisiana, and get out there off of McGee Street where I grew up. And I bet you they still got a couple of wild, tender gents out there trying to be fancy with the young, What else, man? What else, dude? Let's keep it moving. Dave Chappelle's Age of Spin came out on Netflix, and you can check that out. You can also check out my special on there while you're there, and it is called No Offense. You can look that up and drop 5 stars on it if you don't mind while you're there. But Dave Chappelle has a new special out, his first one in a long time, and it's 2 specials, actually. And he's getting ripped up for making homophobic and transphobic jokes and remarks. And that, to me, it's baffling, man. Here, I'll read a little bit of the article. The former Comedy Central star cracked jokes about Caitlyn Jenner and transgender people. Quote, whenever I see one of them T's on the street, I'm like, I don't mind them, but man, I miss Bruce, he said to laughter from the audience, talking about Bruce Jenner there. Then he goes on to say, I knew before you guys knew, he says of Jenner's sexuality. I heard things on the street in Hollywood. You used to be out, see people. Hey, what's up, Kanye? Why the long face? Nigga, you'll see. I got 2 mother-in-laws now. That was one of the jokes. That's funny, man. That could have been a real moment that Dave Chappelle talked to Kanye West. He can't share that moment. He can't share the reality of a moment because somebody's going to be offended. I'm just amazed that if you turn on a comedy show, what do you expect? Dave Chappelle's not a preacher. He's not a teacher. He's not a politician. He's a comedian. It's a comedy show. That's why there's lights, a stage, an audience. It's just baffling to me, the freedom of speech. There's no, it's freedom of speech, but only if you want to say certain things, right? And that's not freedom. Comedians like George Carlin, Richard Pryor, even though they're still lauded as the best, if they wouldn't be able to say what they said today. And that's crazy. When you look and say, oh, those guys are the best, but then when you put them through this filter of whatever's going on today and say, oh, they wouldn't be the best, they would be ostracized, something's wrong with the filter, not with the talent. It's just ridiculous. And it seems like the only people you can still make fun of without the media getting upset are rednecks, poor white people, and white people, and I don't think that that's fair. I grew up poor and white. Trust me, it was hard enough, feeling less than, that was hard enough. I didn't need people making fun of me. It feels miserable, being poor and, surrounded by a lot of, just ignorance and destitution and, addiction and all the things that come with a poor environment, pedophiles, kickballing men, just feel like there was enough going on with that where we don't need to be the last group of people that it's okay to make fun of as far as mainstream media is concerned. And maybe that's just my feelings. And, I'm sorry if I'm getting caught up in my feelings here a little bit, but it's like anybody else gets made fun of. Latinos, blacks, gay, transgender. That's all, horrible. But if you still want to make fun of poor or ignorant white people, that's okay. It's not okay to me, I feel like fucking let's make fun of everybody, I mean, we're making fun. We're making fun, So it's just baffling, man. I support Dave Chappelle. I support all comedians, I mean, I have friends that are every creed and color and style, asexual even comedians. And I love all their material. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? I'm not doing it. That's for damn sure, dude. I am not doing it. All right, guys, I'm going to drop a few dates on you, and then we're going to move on to some callers. And I'll talk a little bit more about my weekend as we go through it. Upcoming dates, I'll be performing in Sacramento, April 21st through 23rd, and that is at the Punchline in Sacramento. May 25th through 28th, I'll be in Tampa, Florida at Side Splitters Comedy Club. June 1st through June 4th, I'll be in Pittsburgh, where I caught pink eye one time up there in the Monongahela, and actually got a blowjob there behind a giant eagle, which is just a Kroger. It's a chain grocer. And that'll be June 1st through 4th at Pittsburgh Improv. And then I'll be at the Calusa Casino Resort, June 9th. And honestly, I don't even know where that is. So those are those dates. And yeah, I'm sorry if I am getting a little, maybe I am getting a little political today, man. Just a lot. I mean, it's tough. It is tough to navigate through life sometimes, especially these days for me. And sometimes I just get agitated. And sometimes I let it happen to me. I let it happen by even reading the news. I should have stayed out of the dang news, man. I should have just read my book. I got this new book about truck drivers. All right, let's get to some callers, man. I want to thank everybody for hitting the hotline. Now, if you're not familiar with the hotline, that number is 985-664-9503. That's an American number that you can call and express your thoughts, feelings, concerns, issues that you're dealing with. I'm not a licensed dude, but I've had a lot of experiences, and I'm happy to share them with you and offer any suggestions that I can. And we're talking about masturbation and some of those issues, and I grew up, I've dealt with that over the years, watching the pornography and dealing with the self-skeet, alone pleasures. I'm no stranger to it. First time I got into masturbation, I found some titty literature and fancy booklets in my brother's closet. And I found a bottle of peach Alizé at the same time. And that was a liquor or a liqueur of sorts. It was pretty much an African-American liquor, I think, at the time. But I found a bottle of it in my brother's closet, and next thing you know, I was into I was getting dark. I was, spraying out and enjoying the pleasures of pornography and liquor. So, and some of that stuck with me for a while, throughout my life. I've noticed that, instead of going on dates, I would just, watch pornography. And a lot of my friends have reached out to me recently, my friends, and said that they're dealing with some of the same stuff, and they're, doing naughty things by themselves, even though they have wives and families and everything. And it's really an issue, because that stuff's pretty wild out there. And we're going to get to some calls here. We had a couple people call in about it. And I want to thank everybody who called in. I'll try to get to the ones that I can, ones that are appropriate. Some people called and were actually doing masturbation on the phone, on the hotline, and that's, I don't know who that's for. That's not for me, that's for them, and I didn't want that, but we got a little bit of that. And maybe we'll put that in some outtakes at some point. But for now, we're going to stick to the plan here. Let's see what we got.
What's up, Theo? This is Chris calling from South Florida.
Chris from South Florida. I'm going to stop him right there. South Florida, I'm going to say, if you don't know it, it's a hotbed of anarchy. I'm going to start with that. Deviants. A lot of deviants end up there. Jugglers, magicians, pedophiles. A lot of pedophiles are arrested in Florida. What else? People with swords, dolphins, atheists. They got it all. So this guy's already in a tough situation.
I'm a big fan of you, big fan of the podcast, and seems like I'm kind of struggling with some of the same things you are. The pornography, I've stopped drinking alcohol like you have, and the biggest problem for me is that I feel like I have nothing to go to whenever I get stressed out. I have no way to bring myself that instant pleasure and kind of take me out of my thoughts.
I feel you, man. I feel you. You know, I'm going to interrupt you right there and say that, you know, I mean, you hit it on the head. You got to take yourself out of your thoughts, you know, because that's what's leading you there. Your thoughts will lead you to actions, and your actions will lead you to better thoughts. So you're going to have to, you know, I suggest that you're going to have to create some better actions, bro. So
my question for you is what are some of the things you do to help relax and help to relieve some of your stress other than drinking alcohol and watching pornography?
Well, Chris, I will try to. The biggest thing for me is closing the day. You know, like I can go all day with no issues. You know, fortunately, I've never had the problem of, you know, wanting to watch pornography during the day or, you know, jerking off in my truck or anything like that. I remember when I was young, they used to have men that would park back behind the Winn-Dixie, which was a shopping, you know, meat and produce grocer, and you'd see them back there jerking off. But I never had that issue of daytime self-pleasure. And for a lot of people, the issue is in the evening, you know, and it becomes a habit. Like a lot of people aren't even enjoying masturbation anymore. They're not enjoying the pornography. It's just a habit that they've created. So you got to create some new habits. And if it's at the end of the day or in the evening when you're struggling, then that's when you got to create some new habits and you got to practice them. Sometimes what helps me is to do a meditation, man. And I know it sounds, you know, wild and cheesy, but when you meditate, you kind of take control of yourself back from your environment. Because there's so many things that are just wanting our attention these days and getting our attention. And pornography is a huge one of those. I mean, dude, you can log on and there's, you know, there's breasts and there's lipstick and, you know, foursomes and brothers wearing sneakers. Fucking women, you know? I mean, these men are showing up to fuck, dude. If you got on a couple New Balance and a hard cock, bro, that's some real dictivity, brother. So, you know, and that stuff can get addicting to watch. So you have to set yourself into a better mode, and I usually do that with a little bit of meditation. You can sit down. A meditation that a friend of mine taught me, you inhale real slowly for 8 seconds, and you count while you're inhaling, and then you hold that inhale for 4 seconds, and then you exhale slowly for 8 seconds, just count it in your head, and then you wait 4 seconds before you start to inhale again, and you just keep repeating that cycle. Do that for 10 minutes. And it might sound crazy. You might only be able to do 5 minutes at first. But if you can get to 10 minutes, man, it'll really set you in a more calmer state where you are more in control of what you're going to do next. And then I'd find, a better activity. If you need to make sure you leave your phone and your computer in the other room, if you need to read a book, those are things. And also, those are things you can do that will help. And also finding a higher power, like it doesn't have to be God. I'm not trying to lead anybody to religion, but if you can find, somebody, if you don't have someone, a higher power that you can say, look, I don't want to do this anymore. Please take away the desire for me to do this. And by putting that out there, you're voicing what you want, that you don't want to be watching masturbation or pornography anymore. And that kind of stuff can really help, man, because sometimes even creating a higher power can just create like some accountability for you. Another thing that I do is, this is going to sound kind of weird, but I do my mother got me a coloring book, one of those adult coloring books. I'll use that sometimes, just to keep my mind occupied. I will also read, and there's meetings you can go to, bud. I'll be honest with you. There's sex and love addiction meetings, SLAA it's called, and there's tons of men in those who can relate to your same exact issues. But I recommend some spirituality, I recommend some meditation, just things that are going to help you reclaim yourself, because it sounds like you don't want to be doing these things anymore, and that these are outside influences that are really reaching for you and getting a hold of you. So if you can reclaim yourself some, you're going to have a stronger fortitude from which to keep those things from accessing you. And you can email me as well, man. You can email me directly through my website. I can send you some links for local sex and love addiction meetings that are near you, where you can meet people who, are dealing with the same stuff, man. And I appreciate you calling and asking about it. I hope I was able to offer a little bit of thoughts and guidance there. All right, let's get another call here.
Hey, Theo. My name is Ahmad, man. I love your show.
Ahmad, love that name. Sounds kind of foreign, maybe. Originally foreign, now probably an American name as well. Desert descendant, respect, Ahmad. Beige power, bro. Beige power. Let's go.
You've got a lot of wisdom. I'm calling you today because I like what you have to say about masturbation, man. About, I'm a young guy. I'm 22, college-age student, good-looking guy, and it's too much, bro. It's too much. I'm calling you today to ask you about advice for laying off masturbation and pornography.
Yeah, man. It's too much. It's too much, man. I agree. I think it's one of the biggest things that is affecting men our age. We can't battle it. Like, how can you, if you're built in limbically, I think that's the term, in your core brain to want to get some puss or want to hunt down a piece of ass or some titty, you're going, and then you're just flooded with it in high definition. It is too much. It's like the devil got some machine gun and it's filled with pussy bullets and they are coming at you constantly. I feel you, man. It's too much.
And especially when it seems to me, at least, that in my age group and at my university, this is such a normal thing. It seems like everybody watches pornography.
Well, I'm going to stop you there and say that, that's it. Yeah, it does probably seem like that, and that's probably true, but that isn't a reason to be doing it. If everybody's, killing whales with hammers and shit, you can't be out there, swimming around with hardware, dude. So you gotta, it can't be because everybody is doing it. That's not why you're doing it, I'm guessing.
It seems like everybody's still getting laid. I don't know. Maybe I need to stop taking what it seems like for the actuality. any advice to stop masturbation and stop pornography and get back out there to talk to women would be greatly appreciated, Theo. Have a good time, bro.
Well, there's two different things here, Ahmad. You got pornography and masturbation, you know? I mean, I think that masturbation is tougher to stop than to watching the pornography. I mean, the pornography, you know, there's special filters you can get to put on your computer. There's special software you can get so you're not able to access it on your computer. So that's, you know, those are some small things that can help. But also getting out there, period, and finding new things to do are going to keep you from, you know, from the habit of going to pornography. And I'll tell you this, man, at your age, you're 20, I think you said 22. If you get out there and learn to talk to women now, while everybody else is spraying out and everybody else is, you know, geeking their own meat, you are going to be heads and shoulders above the rest of your class. Think about it like this, like everybody else is going left, you go right. If everybody else is cranking it out and spraying, you get out there and meet a girl, you know? It seems like that's going to be a great place for you to start, is just by practicing actually communicating with women in real time. And that alone, even just having some interaction and some fulfillment by having some real communication from the opposite sex, that could start to do wonders for even your desire to want to masturbate or to want to watch pornography. So maybe that's where I would start. You know, I'd start communicating with some women of the opposite sex, even if it's, you know, small talk or just, you know, if next time a girlfriend introduces you to her friend, you know, even if the friend is not a woman you're attracted to, just practice communicating with her. Talk, you know, share what's going on, you know. I think just even building up some of that ability to communicate with women can take you out of using porn to communicate with women or feel like you're fulfilling that void of not having communication with women. So maybe just getting out there and building real communication, I think could really help, man. All right, let's take another call here.
What's up, Theo? My name's Chris from Nevada over here, and talking about your
Nevada, that's waterbed country. I'll say that.
Pornography question. I would just like to say that out of all the addictions that I have, pornography has to be the worst one, and it's actually gotten so bad to the point where I can't get off with my girlfriend as much as I should be able to, and I think it's specifically due to porn. It's me seeing all these girls with huge tits, huge asses, and a perfect figure, you know, absolute bombshells, you know, and my girlfriend's not ugly by any means, but she's also not a porn star, you know, so.
Yeah, I'll say this, Chris, before you even finish that, I mean, yeah, the resolution on pornography is clearer and brighter than actual life. So, I mean, the sex that we're looking at on the internet, it ain't even as freaking, real life piece of ass isn't as HD as the screen ass. You know, it's not even, so yeah, the reality is that your girlfriend could never compete. She could because she can't make her ass and genitals in HD. I mean, she can't make them, you know, as well lit as a lot of these porn stars are, you know? And I'll say this too, man. I have some friends that are porn stars. Porn stars overall, I feel like, look best on screen, you know? So it's not, it's a ruse, you know? It's meant to be a fictional universe, you know? It's like whenever you see like a truck commercial, you know, they're not showing you the truck when it, you know, isn't working that good, or when it's dirty, or when, you know, there's 9 kids in it or whatever, and there's starbursts, you know, stuck on the carpet and all of that. They're showing you the glossy when it's bouncing on the rocks and everything, right? So what you're watching isn't even reality. Let's just start there.
I think it actually has a big impact on me and my sex life, and I actually would love some advice on how to stop fucking watching it, because it actually is becoming a bad thing in my relationship, because it's stimulating me so much that now my girlfriend's not doing it for me. You know, it's something that's real and tangible, something that I can feel for some reason, isn't doing it for me. Like, I need to watch porn as we're fucking and stuff, and it's really becoming a burden on our relationship.
Wow. Yeah, man, it sounds like you're in the dragon's den there, dude. If you're having to watch pornography during sex, yeah, I mean, that means that you're needing this whole universe that's online. You're needing all that stimulation as well as real life stimulation. So you're going to have to find a way to take a step back. I would suggest, you're probably so caught up in your own orgasm, that if you can't even come anymore when you're doing sex, then I would try and just focus on maybe your girlfriend. I would start there. I'd focus on your girlfriend and not even worry about your own orgasm, because I'm sure she's probably really suffering at the hands of this if you are having a real addiction to pornography, and to all that butt work, and if you're watching all of that. So I would try to bring her to orgasm and just worry about that, man. Get your chick gassing up. And I think maybe hopefully that will help inspire you, and help inspire a little bit more, feeling into your wiener and everything. I think that's probably a good place to start, is just to focus on her. And sometimes that can be, if you really need to build a connection, like I used to lay next to my ex-girlfriend and just lay next to her for a while until I really felt connected before I started really revving up the sex activity. And sometimes that would help, just really trying to feel her body and just feel that physical connection, that connectivity. And second of all, man, if you're going to keep watching porn, I would try and, if you feel like if a woman's body in real life isn't doing it for you and you're going to continue to watch it, watch some other stuff, watch Big Girls, or watch, African American or Indian women, or watch, bald women, or, short girls, or something where you're at least going to see a plethora of things. So you're not going to be so figmented or so focused on just a couple of images in your head, that you're trying to aspire or make your girlfriend become in real life this, big tittied, little sex kitten, Find some women that are a little more burlesque, a little bit more, Statue of Liberty kind of hiding under the dress, and I think at least that'll probably at least give your mind, a larger or a wider idea of what real women are, that they're, all different shapes and sizes, and that their bodies are real things. And then second of all, man, again, I'm going to say that the SLAA meetings, look it up online, Sex and Love Addiction Anonymous, I think it's called. And you can go there and you can get a sponsor. And you can really solve your problems, bro. You really, really can. And you can do it with a sponsor and somebody that's going to kind of hold you accountable. Because you said it out of the gate that you called it an addiction. So if you're already there where it is, it sounds like you might want to get some pro help on that, But I feel you, it's powerful, dude. We're battling. Just the titties alone. And the crazy thing is, after a while, you don't even see the titties. You're just looking at the crotches, and you just looking at things that are glistening, and the magic of them. All these ladies are doing spreading everything, and you don't even notice their kneecaps or their feet or anything. You just crotch centric, really, and people got their buttholes out, and it's, man, it's heavy. It's heavy, dude. So yeah, I would try that. I would try to focus on just pleasuring your girlfriend, make it about her, so that way you're not stuck in your own head. And then I would try maybe seeing about a SLAA, man, check it out. It's a real program that's out there, and it's everywhere. And there's a lot of dudes struggling with it, and it's real stuff, man. All right, guys. I actually got to go to sleep soon, so I'm going to call this. I appreciate the calls. I had another one that I wanted to get to. Someone had called in about what it's like to move to Los Angeles, but I'll tap into that next week. I appreciate you guys joining me for this past weekend and listening to some of this. If you have any constructive criticisms or suggestions about how to make the podcast better, write them in the comments, on YouTube's or on SoundClouds, and let me know. I'm learning as I go. I'm just trying to share some of the experiences that I've had, and just trying to be there for each other if we can, and I appreciate, you guys calling in with your issues, because it makes me realize that issues that I have in my life, that I'm not alone, that these are real things that a lot of, men and women are dealing with, because I want to be in a comfortable relationship where I can enjoy sex and enjoy touching, just touch a woman's shoulder and feel good, and feel sexy, and feel maybe an erection, like they used to do in the 50s or the 60s, and just come home and have your lady baking a cake or something, and you guys do sex in the kitchen, and it doesn't have to be, that there has to be pornography or dirty toys around, or flavored lubricants or anything like that. So I'm hopeful, man. I am hopeful. I'm going to say that I am hopeful. And with that, I think that's what I'm going to lead us out of here with today, man. A little bit more hope, because that's where we started at. So that's where we're going to leave at. And I hope we didn't get too political and stuff this week, man. I didn't mean to. I just sometimes get agitated. Smoothie really fast in the blender, when you're throwing a bunch of shit in there and, getting all fucking jazzed up, and, you got the banana in there, and you're trying to put some peanut butter in there and some milk, and you don't have any milk, so you're fucking putting water in there, and you're eating a jacked up fucking rural New York smoothie, probably has 4 grams of protein, 70 grams of sugar, and that's what you're having. And that's the kind of music that's playing in your head when those types of things are occurring, or at least that's how I feel, man. Welcome to this past weekend, guys. It is Monday, and if it sounds like it's April 24th, 2017, that's because it is. It is that date. That is where we are in time. And I have allergies, bro. I'll admit it, dude. I'm not the kind of guy who, just stands around red-eyed, with snot kind of hanging out of his nose like a couple of Asian fellas or kids hanging off the side of a bicycle or something. I got allergies, dude. I'll admit it. I got them. I fall victim. I can be a tough guy, but also I can fall victim to pollen. Really put you in your place. It really puts you in your place when you think you're a badass, and then you have to sit down and really gather yourself before you sneeze because you got issues with pollen. So that's where I am. I'm in Sacramento, California. I'm actually in the kitchen of a Residence Inn motel hotellery. And if you've never been to a Residence Inn, it's a very basic but comfortable type of place. It's your middle of the road type of motel hotel. And I've been here this weekend in Sacramento. Sacramento, good place, I feel like, to get socks, to get new socks, and maybe to get murdered. Or not murdered, but attacked. I could see somebody just hitting you for no reason in Sacramento. It kind of seems like the kind of place where karma is prevalent. It seems karma heavy. Like at any point you could get jacked or hit by somebody, or a bird. A bird wouldn't shit on you in Sacramento, but it might come down and bite your fucking neck, maybe a couple of blackbirds or mixed birds might fucking come down and, just slap you with their wing, or fucking rip a mole off your back with their talons. It's got that kind of edge to it. It's got like a hillbilly edgily. It's got that hillbilly edge, but also kind of a thug. Everybody looks like kind of like a mixed baby that grew up. But it's good, man. It's real people, and I love real people, man. And I think it may be the city where I ran into the most, like fans and friends, where I felt like a real connection. I mean, I just really, really relate to the people around this type of environment, man. So I had a great weekend, except for these allergies. Got daddy down. I'd rather be snotting out of my nose than out of my pecker, though. That's the old saying, I'd rather have allergies than sexually transmitted diseases and that, and no offense if somebody has those, Some of that's part of nature. Excuse me. But yeah, if you can see on the YouTubes, I'm in the kitchen right now of a Marriott Residence Inn, and I've got some new dates for you. I'm coming to Phoenix, Arizona in 2 weeks. You can come and get a look at my straight up D. Not really, but you can come and be a part of the show, man. I'd love to have you come out. That's May 5th and 6th at Stand Up Live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm really excited about that. May 25th through 28th, I'll be in Tampa, Florida at Side Splitters. June 1st through 4th, I'll be in Pittsburgh at the Pittsburgh Improv. June 23rd and 24th, New York City. I hope to catch up and jump on the Opie show there as well. And then June 30th, we are doing a fundraiser show in Wyoming, Illinois. It's a small town. The tickets will go online this week for that. It's about an hour from Peoria, not too far from the Quad Cities. So if you're in Illinois and you want to come check that out, or you're in Iowa, come on over. It's gonna be a really good time. Small town show. I'm excited about that. All right, man. Let's get into the weekend, man. It was it's been a chill one. I'm at this Residence Inn. I got into a little bit of a fracas at the pool here. They got some guys, I guess, been staying here for about a month. Some dude who's real, like, tall, like, beer belly, like, almost amazing amount of beer belly for his height. And he just talks. He knows everything. And he was grilling, bro. He's been grilling all weekend at the pool, who uses the grill at a fucking Marriott Residence Inn? I didn't even know they had a grill. And this dude's out there, he's inviting friends over. He's got they got some lady, like an older lady out there twerking, maybe about 48 years old. Blonde hair, party. Just kind of shaking her, just like not really shaking her, just kind of bending over and holding onto a table and then just shaking everything. It's one thing to kind of shake your ass and do that fancy ass work, and to really get yourself, gyrating. But it's another thing just to kind of bend over and just fucking move your whole body at once. Like, it's not the same. It almost looks like somebody's hurt or something, like they got, like their whole body is itching, but they're not allowed to scratch it or something. Like they've been told they can't scratch themselves. So they're just trying to scratch their body against the air by moving their body around. So that's kind of what this lady was doing out by the pool. And of course you got all these fellas drinking, and this dude's fucking grilling potatoes, like, I don't know, man. I mean, I've been in some pretty gutter shit, but this dude's out there like this. Fucking know-it-all grilling patatas, So I'm trying to go in there and talk to him. They were just kind of ruling the pool. I guess I got a little mouthy. But things calmed down. And it was just awkward. It's awkward to see somebody, grilling out at a Residence Inn. But here I am, man. Here I am. I'm in Sacramento. A lot of missing people. A lot of people here look like missing persons. You know, I put this on Twitter yesterday, and everybody here, I kind of, I love those shows where people are missing. I've always been a fan of missing people, of buried treasure. You know, I can't even sleep at night really unless I've seen a new episode of a show where somebody is missing or where there's a treasure that hasn't been found. I just have an obsession with that. You know, I found some fingers in the woods when I was young, and so maybe that spurned some of that behavior. But that's always been a part of my life. I love the missing. So if you are missing, or you know somebody that's missing, dude, I'd love to hear about that. Or if you know somebody that went missing, we can talk about that next week. I'd love to know if you've ever been missing as well. If you are someone who went into hiding, or who decided to skip out on, a prison sentence or hide from their family or something like that. I'd love to get to, I'd love to have you call in, hit the hotline so that I could get into that and learn more about what your life has been like. We're getting close to having some guests, guys. I hope next week to have a guest. So I know I'll bring things up on the show that I want to do. I appreciate you guys bearing with me. It's a struggle because some of these weeks on the road keep popping up, and I'm in a fucking kitchenette. Okay, if you're on YouTube, you can see me. I'm taping this shit. I don't even have my mic stand. I have the top of it, but not the bottom. I have this thing propped up in a coffee pot that I took the top off of. So we're doing what we can. I got allergies. I just want to shoot myself in the fucking head with an EpiPen. Anyhow, 985-664-9503. If you are missing or if you know someone who has been missing, I'd love for you to call in. I remember when I was young, we were playing hide and go seek, and a boy went and hid, and they never found him. No one ever found him or heard from him. So I sometimes wonder what happened to that boy. What else, man? I read this, dude, that they had some conjoined twins. I believe they're from Mexico and now living in Connecticut. That's a real juxtaposition, I think. I don't know what that is, but that is, and they don't want to be separated. Conjoined twins refusing to be separated. And you know what? It made me feel good when I heard that. Because I'm tired sometimes of us doing whatever science kind of says we should do. The doctors tell them, well, you have a better chance of living if you separate. But, but what's their life going to be like, I mean, I look at, I'm not in this scenario, but I just, I think it's kind of beautiful to stay in it, to stick it out. You're conjoined. You got you can high five yourself, but somebody else at the same time. There's something beautiful about that. And to know that, that you're in this together through thick or thin. There's something beautiful about that. That, don't separate us. We're going to see what we can do. We're going to make it through this together. I think that's pretty beautiful, man. So that story really resonated with me. I hope they stay conjoined. I hope they stick it out. And you know what? If they go to heaven together. And I think there's something beautiful about that, man. It's like when somebody gets, it's like if you had a little person that was hooked on to you and you got them cut off. I wouldn't do that. I'd say we're ride or die, This is my friend Shotgun, and we're going into life together. Thought that was interesting. Another thing in the news, I saw the Confederate monuments in New Orleans, and I know this has been happening in other cities, are being taken down. There's been a lot of issue back and forth there about these Confederate monuments. Robert E. Lee, other Confederate statues and soldiers, that it's a racist, that people feel, and predominantly black people, but also black and white people feel that it's not, that you see this leader of a Southern army and that it's racist. And I can understand the rebel flag. Like, I get that, because there are people that really associate that heavily with racism. But I'm just not a proponent of bringing down the Confederate statues, because if you're going to do that, then there's statues in New Orleans where there are like slaves. There's slaves, and it talks about like, when indentured servants and slaves came to New Orleans. There's some, I believe, in the Mahalia Jackson Park right there in Armstrong Park. Then I'd like to see those statues gone, because I don't want to remember that. I didn't have anything to do with slavery, like, I'm sorry. I think it's horrible. I wouldn't probably want to be a slave, I don't think. I mean, maybe in some instances, but not overall. But it's like, when do we just, do we just take everything away that bugs somebody? And I know that, remembering slavery isn't bugging somebody. It's bigger than that. But, I don't want to see things that remind me of negative stuff, like, I just feel like we're headed down this road where we're never going to get to a place where everybody's happy, Like, I never walk down the street and am totally fired up, If we're doing that, then get rid of all my ex-girlfriends, Get rid of the dude that used to make me bury his poops in the yard when I was growing up. He passed away, so that's a moot point. But like, at what point do we stop, getting rid of just anything that bugs us? So I don't know. I don't agree with that. I agree with taking down things that really are surefire of racism. But, the South had its own army. I feel like having some tradition is okay. I just feel like, because at a certain point we're headed down a road that you're never going to be able to do it all. Let's completely erase history then, because history's always pissed somebody off. Something pisses somebody off everywhere. What else, dude? I've been thinking about the future, man. And I want people to call in too if they have some thoughts about this. The future, dude. And you know what I'm talking about. What's next. And it kind of spooks me out, bro. I feel like we are so... I almost dropped my phone in the pool here at the Residence Inn. And I flipped. I felt my whole body kind of seizure up. And I was like, wow, I don't really get that feeling unless it's my phone, Like, if I saw a friend fall in the pool, I'd be like, they'll probably be okay. Not knowing if they could swim or whatever, they'll probably be all right. But when you see a phone about to go in, you're like, oh my God, it's going to die. Like, that's what I felt like. It's going to die. As if it were more than a machine. That's what concerned me. I was like, that I thought of it as more than a machine. Anyhow, so I'm just a little bit worried about the future, man. When do we stop technology? At what point do we shut it down? When it's not it's not helping us anymore. When is that? I can understand in some fields, in some of the medical fields and stuff like that. But when do we, self-driving cars, the trucking industry, they say, will be gone. Cross-country truckers, a lot of stepdads, probably a lot of stepdads doing that work. When does that end? Because if we allow self-driving cars, then you just have thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of men and women that are going to be out of work. I don't see the benefit there. At what point is it not helping us to be human? I feel like we're there right now. I'd love to know some of you guys' thoughts on that. I feel like we're at a spot in time where technology isn't helping us as humans anymore. It's just helping us to create basically machines and a future that has us not as really a big part of the picture. So that's where I'm at with it, man. I have a lot of concern there. I also think that TVs are too clear. I'm watching this the other day. I'm trying to watch something, Dances with Wolves, the movie it's about a warrior whenever he goes to, he meets a woman and somebody has fucking wolves, I think. I can't even remember. Guys, it's 3 a.m. I'm a little bit out of it. But, bro, the movie was so clear. I felt like I was watching like home videos from Oklahoma, of like a Civil War reenactment. I'm like, it didn't hold, it wasn't the same. So I just wonder if anybody else feels that way. Like, am I the only person who, I just think televisions are too clear? Like, I want to know that it's a story. I don't want to feel like I'm looking into like a weird window where it doesn't seem like a story. So those are just some of my thoughts on the future, man. That's where I'm at. I know I'm rambling a little bit today, guys. I'm gonna get through this. And I want to apologize too, man. I know that I've said again that there's some things I want to do with this podcast. I want to get to some other levels. I want to get some guests. And I haven't gotten to those things yet for you guys, and I want to. I had a guy this weekend at one of the shows, and he was really nice. After the shows, we were talking. I met a lot of great people here in Sacramento. Went downtown, beautiful downtown. But I met a guy, and I was like, he's saying he likes the podcast, and I said, well, thank you for listening. I'm trying to figure it out, and trying to figure out what I'm doing sometimes. And he goes, just do what you say you're going to do. That's what he said. And at first it kind of struck me a little bit like in a strong thing to say. But then I was like, he's right, man. If I'm going to connect with people and I'm going to want to share and have, listeners share with me, I got to do the things that I say I'm going to do. So I do want you to know that I'm making an effort, that I'm trying to get it done. That I'm trying to create, good, legit content for you guys, where we can, move forward and learn some shit together. It's been a rocky year for me, with the Native American child that could have been, that kind of sent my feelings into a whirlwind, with the electrocution, with just the belittlement out there in Los Angeles being a Southern guy, they don't want us. They don't want us, man. They want to take down the statues. They want to take down the humans, I feel like, a lot of times. But I'm going to try to do the things that I say I'm going to do. I've had a lot of amazing calls from you guys, and I'm going to try to get to most of them that are relevant. There's one where it's a guy and his kid just talking in the car for 2.5 minutes. There's nothing there, There's some where guys are making up stories. There's a couple where men are jerking off in the distance, or women that sound like men that make male jerk off sounds. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I got allergies right now. I got a lot going on today. I want to get this out to you guys. I want to get to a few questions. You can support the podcast if you want. You can go and grab the album, 30-Pound Bag of Hamster Bones. It's still out there. And what else? There's some other cool stuff on the website, theovon.com/store. All right, man, let's jump into a couple of calls right here. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, Theo? This is Chase. I'm calling from actually right outside New Orleans. That 985, you heard me?
That 985, boy, I do hear you, Chase, man. That's my neck of the woods, brother. Come across 10-4.
I was calling in reference. You asked about if anybody's having trouble about masturbation or stories about bad jobs or something like that. Well, I had this job. I actually really liked it. It was one of my favorite jobs. I was driving school bus for the parish. And
oh, nice, dude. Now, the parish, most states have counties. Louisiana, we have parishes. That's what they call it there. So it's the same thing. Damn, this dude's pretty gangster, bro. If you driving bus, bro, go on.
It was basically awesome. I saw the sunrise every morning, off every weekend, but there was this one aspect where
Elvis, dude, we need gas money and we need ideas. Those are the top two things we need. Nobody's hiring an Elvis, and fucking half of everybody's uncle looks a little bit like Elvis anyway. So nobody's going to go just get another uncle for, whatever price he was charging. But anyway, this man had broke his leg and they set his leg in cement to fix it, cheaper, on the cheap, But when it healed up well, everybody assumed. But when they broke the cement cast off, they broke it with a hammer, ball peen hammer. And it re-broke his leg and a hip in about 2 or 3 different spots, maybe at least. So then he was really effed up. They had to set most of his lower body in the cement, except for where he could urinate out of. So, but after that, he healed up. He kind of had like this wobble in his hips, almost ironically like Elvis Presley. But anyhow, he had 3 or 4 children, and one of them was a boy. And the boy used to vomit on the bus all the time because the family didn't have a refrigerator. They only had a freezer. And he would eat ice cream, and the bus ride would shake and make him sick, and he would vomit up on the bus, doing bus vomit. And anyhow, one week I was coming home from church practice, and the dad was in the garage, and he was making his son a wooden shirt, a shirt out of wood. And I went over, and I didn't know what he was doing. You know, I thought he was building the fucking biggest birdhouse I've ever seen, you know. I'm thinking like, damn, this dude's trying to meet a pelican, you know. So I go over, and I see this activity going on, and I'm looking at him, and the dad, he's like, you want to help me out? And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And he's like, I'm making my boy a shirt, you know? And so I want to be helpful. You know, I'm a young man, but I'm fired up to try and be helpful. So I try and help, but I don't know how to make a shirt. But anyhow, I came back 2 days later, and that was Christmas time. I came back on Christmas, and I held the side of this. When he nailed his son into the shirt, and he made his son a beautiful, pretty beautiful wooden shirt out of plywood. So it almost looked kind of camouflage, you know, because of the ply, because of the different, you know, wood particles that are in there. But he wore it for a while. Some people spray painted swastikas on it on the school bus as well. And nobody had anything against Jews. People had just seen that on pamphlets, you know, had seen the swastikas on pamphlets and stuff. And so somebody drew that, you know. We didn't even have any Jewish people in our area, even though my mother dated a Jewish man for a while. It was the first Jewish man I ever met, actually. This man, Zali was his name. Still one of the neatest names I've ever heard. But anyhow, that boy had that shirt for a while. And then some people stole it from him with crowbars and allegedly made a baby crib out of the wood. So that has kind of a sweet ending. But what I was answering there, sorry to go into that, but what I was answering was this gentleman's question here on the school bus. Let's go back to that story. I don't know how I got away from the school bus so far, but that was a strange kid that rode my bus, was that boy in the wooden shirt who used to do a lot of bus vomiting. But anyway, go on, Chase. Let's get back to you.
Every fucking day. And it started the very first day I ever picked him up. Well, he didn't skip a beat, you know, of course, smelling of weed. Steps right onto the bus. I'm a big fat dude. You got to understand this. And he looks right at me.
That's cool, man. I have some friends that are pretty fat or different types of sizes in their body. Go on. So you got the kid getting on the bus making fun of you a lot.
Oh, shit. It's Peter Griffin driving the bus. So that pretty much set the tone for the rest of that whole entire school year.
Wow, man. So that's so you got the kid getting on the bus, he's raising hell.
So I was calling to see, how would you deal with a situation like that? Or you just roll with the punches and enjoy getting zinged by a professional. So, all right, man.
Well, you know what? I mean, I'll say this: if he's quick like that, you might not want to go at him. You know, sometimes you just can't compete if somebody's zinging you, and sometimes you just need to not try on. But they tried to pretend like the boy had 2 white parents, and I always thought that was interesting. And I also thought my vision was bad for a while because I would see him and be like, damn, my eyes aren't seeing colors correctly. I used to think that. But Chase, thanks for calling in there, dude. Sorry I went off on my own tangent. I'm at my wit's end right now, and I'm high on Claritin. I've been putting down some Claritin recently. This weekend here in Sacramento is Claritin country. Let's get into another question right here, man.
Hey Theo, I got a unique one for you, man. We got a lot in common in the fatherhood department. My dad was 66 when I was born.
Okay, wow, his father was 66 when he was born. My father was 70 when I was born, so very similar.
And he died when I was 16.
Same here.
And right after that, a year after that, I joined the Marine Corps, got deployed, came home.
Thank you for your service, brother. Came home and
had a hard time readjusting, so I kind of went down a shitty road. I got a couple questions for you, because I think you might be the only person I've ever heard of that's got an old ass dad like mine. But how do you handle with not having that father figure to go to, and do you feel any resentment? Because I find myself having resentment towards him.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because that's a lot right there. How did I handle not having a dad? And did I feel any resentment? The resentment, it's hard to have for me because for me, my father just wasn't really there enough to resent him. So I can resent kind of him not being there. But he just, at a certain age, there's not a lot that they can even do. So, like, he couldn't even be there in a physical capacity. I mean, my parents also got divorced when I was 7, and then I only saw my father on the weekends, but he could only be there so much in a physical capacity. So to have a resentment towards him is really tough. Like, I do resent the situation. I resent his choice to have children when he was that old. But also, if he didn't have kids, I don't exist. So I have to be grateful for that. I have to be grateful for my own life, because if I'm not grateful for my own life, then I'm not, I'm not even taking any stock in myself. So I do have resentment towards him just for not being there, but I don't have resentment, like small resentments towards him, because once he wasn't there, there's nothing really that he could do. And because of his age, he really couldn't be there. So I guess there's some resentment there, but not like in every moment. Like, I wish my dad was here for this. I don't hold those resentments. Now, unfortunately, what I do is I put a lot of pressure on my mother. I took a lot of things out of my mother that should have been probably a father's responsibilities, but suddenly all those male responsibilities switched to my mother. And I think the same thing happens with a lot of kids that just have a mother or just have one parent. You put the pressures or your desires or your expectations of that you'd have of both parents onto one. So I did that a lot. And I feel bad about some of that, but I was a child and I was trying to survive and I didn't know. I also was blessed a lot, man. I had, I found fatherhood in the littlest of things, man. Any adult that would even talk to me that was a male, like, I would remember things that they said, because I was just such a sponge for any older man to spend time with me or to talk to me. I had a friend, one of my best friends when I was younger was this man, Billy. And he was a homosexual gentleman, and he was a fighter. He used to do some prize fighting down there in southern Louisiana. Very fancy fella, too, and I used to run him around to buy weed and drugs and this and that. Really neat man. He used to cut his own hair as well, and so did I. And we had that in common. And he kind of became a role model for me. He was tough, but he was gentle at the same time, because he had that romantic interest in men's and in pleasure with men's. So I would see him, and he he was older than me by about 10 years. So he had a lot, or 15 years maybe. I mean, hell, he might have been mildly pedophilic in some of his behaviors, but but I just embraced being able to be around him because he almost had, some father-like abilities. He was tough. He cared about me because he probably might have had a light romantic interest, but he also was in touch with his feelings. So he was sentimental. So I'll say that he was tough, but he was sentimental. And that's kind of what I think a lot of men desire, or young men desire in their father. So I got a little bit of that from my buddy Billy before he actually got peeled up and drove into an embankment, and he died, I think, in a Cutlass. But I had another man who's still kind of like a stepfather to me today. I became friends with a kid. He invited me into his home, and then me and his stepfather became friends. And he's still a really good friend of mine today. And I value him, I love him. He took care of me for years, man. And showed me, even though I wasn't ready to take a lot of his advice and guidance, he was an example. And that's one thing that was really special to me and still is. Another man, an older man, one time told me, my basketball coach told me to get my college diploma. He was the only man that ever said that to me outright. And that stuck with me. And he said, the reason you got to get it is because they can never take it away from you. That's what he said. And it was just a man who said that to me, but it stuck with me. So I would get inspiration from some of the strangest of places, man. And, and that's the thing. I think when you are young, if you don't have a father figure, you'll pull it out of anywhere. It can be a movie. It can be a song lyric. It can be a dream, but you are really just thirsty for that guidance or whatever you think a father would give you. And so you covet it and you'll chase it down anywhere in any male authority figures. Or I did anyway. If a man showed interest in me, even though I was still like a corny kid and I was, full of ego and thought I was cool and stuff or pretended like I thought I was cool, I still probably really valued the fact that somebody cared about me, So I would just get it here and there, man. I'd get it door to door almost if I had to. Let's get one more question here, man. Then we're gonna pop off because I'm tired, and I'll get into some other good stuff and try to honor my commitments to you guys. Thank you guys so much for your support. Here we go.
What's up, Theo? Hey, man, this is Luke. I just wanted to encourage you to continue to work on trying to start a family, man. I think you're a great person. You're a good human being. You have a great heart. And I don't think there's any reason on the planet that you should feel like any type of apprehension or afraid to do it, man, because I'll tell you what, I was 25.
Well, thanks for the nice words, man. I appreciate you saying some of those things, Luke. I appreciate that, man. It's nice of you to say. Onward.
About 3 years ago, and I met a girl who had a daughter, and that little girl's dad had left her and didn't want to be a part of her life, and now, I'm her dad, and she's 7 years old now and thriving and living a beautiful life, man. But, I wanted to give you this advice, Theo. The commitment you make, it's not a 100-year commitment, Theo. You just make a new commitment one day at a time. So every morning I wake up, I commit to be the best dad I can be. I commit to be the best boyfriend I can be. And that's all you can do, man. Don't look at it as a 50-year race, because that'll overwhelm you, man. Just take it a day at a time, Theo. And I thank you for this podcast, man. I love it. It encourages me to be a better person. And God bless you, Theo. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I really do appreciate the nice words, dude. That's a great way to think about it, because if I think of something in a big chunk, I can't handle it. It's the same way that I deal with staying in sobriety. So it's interesting that you say that. That if I try to think, I'm going to stay sober forever, or I'm not going to have another beer, I can't that's really tough to stomach. But if I just think, okay, today, I'm not drinking today, or I'm not going to party today, then that's easier to handle, So that's really great. That's really that's great advice that you're offering to me, man, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate I do get some good calls where you guys are offering me guidance and thoughts and advice, and I really appreciate it. It makes me feel good that you care, because I care, man. We're out here fucking fighting, dude. Like, it is, for me, it is hard to be a man, dude. It's hard because I want to fucking still be a boy. I want to still screw around, and there's an environment and a society that caters to that. It's like, oh yeah, sex is everywhere, and this is and party and this and that, and you can do it all, but you can't. You can't do it all. At certain ages you can, and certain times in your life, but if you're trying to grow up and move on or evolve, then you can't. And it's tough, dude. It is tough. It's tough to not want to just be a kid forever. And it's tough to realize you might have the confidence to be a parent to somebody when you still don't know if you've been parented enough as a human. If I still don't know if I've found enough father figures, to get back to that previous call. I don't know if I've still, it's tough to decide when you feel like you're the child that you were, and whatever damages were there have been healed or taken care of, so that you can evolve and move past that. So I think that's some of my issues sometimes. Luke, to get back to your call, I believe it was Luke. Let me check and see here.
Theo, hey man, this is Luke.
Yeah. If it's tough. It's just tough sometimes, dude. But I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that vote of confidence, and that's a good way to look at it. And that's a good way to look at any addiction or any concern. Like, I don't have to do this for 50 years. I just have to do it for today. So I'm going to leave us with that, man. That's a great thought. That if you're worried about something, if you think, oh, I'm never going to talk to my girlfriend again, or or my ex-girlfriend, or I'm never going to be able to stop drinking or stop smoking, it's too big of a task. Our brains will do that sometimes. They'll make the task so big, so unimaginably big, but it's not true. It's just today. Just today, you don't have to do it for. So I'm sharing Luke's words there. And what's funny is, man, I wish there were times in my life when if I'd have had a father figure that had come along and told me some of those things like that, simple things, I think I wouldn't have spent years, maybe even decade, spinning my wheels, not being able to figure out things or get past things because I didn't have good advice. But I would gravitate to it wherever I could get it. And I think that's what we're all doing these days. If you're